If you just do it, it'll turn out okay. Even if you fall asleep 30 minutes before you go live, which I did.
It's all right. It happens. I took a nap earlier too. Colton, you have the link. Get in here. Hurry up. So, yeah, for this one, I'm going to be talking about why baraminology fails. Baraminology is the study of the created kinds, the baramins, which is what creationists attempt to do.
Their own little flower garden. Instead of a tree, they have like a flower garden.
Yeah, they want a creation orchard rather than a single phylogenetic tree, and so they try mightily to prove that certain groups are not related to each other, and it fails pretty spectacularly.
I sent you all a link to come in whenever you guys are ready. So.
Yep. So I did this little. I guess I should flip my screen around. Screen sharing. Okay, let's see. Let me share. We're sharing my screen now. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Boop. All right. The many failures of baraminology. Okay. So the baramins are the created kinds. How do we tell kinds apart? That is the question. Well, unfortunately for creationists, there is no consensus regarding how to delineate kinds. There is no single way to tell which organisms are more closely related to other ones, and I'll show you examples of why later. You can try using morphology, fossils, genetics, ontogeny, which is development, but each of these methods fail to demonstrate that these organisms are not at all related to each other in different ways. Now, oftentimes when we try to point out things like this to the creationists, they say, oh, well, that's just like the species concept. Well, biologists don't know what a species is exactly. The problem is it's not like a species. This is an asymmetrical problem. Creationists have the entire issue on their side. Biologists are not arguing that any organisms are not related to each other. All organisms are related to each other. The failure of baraminology is to show that organisms are not related to each other. And they haven't done that. Whether we call two populations the same species or not, they're still related to each other. And though there are different fairly workable definitions for species, regardless of whether or not we can delineate species, it really isn't the same as delineating kinds. Colton asked me to put this in here. It's Anakin when he says, this is where the fun begins. Because, is he here yet? Is Colton here?
I'm having trouble. I'm not yet. I'm having trouble hitting the link.
Oh, okay, because I have what I want to show. Oh, he's here. He's in the back. I added it.
Kill me, Jackson?
Yes, but I also added it. You said do the thing. Okay, let me get back to the PowerPoint. This is where the fun begins. All right. Fantastic. All right, Colton. Here's the first one. So what I did here was I parodied Kent Hovind's Ask a 5-year-old which of these is not like the other.
I think
I am mentally a 5-year-old. So
I think you need to share the screen again.
Oh, crap. My bad. My B. Sorry, everyone. Jackson is a failure, just like baraminology. Okay. All right. Let me share. Okay. We can see it now?
There we go.
Okay. So, all right. So, this is the first one. So, I wanted to parody Kent Hovind's Ask a 5-Year-Old which of these is not like the other. And I didn't know I was invited. Is it today? Yes, Tony, it's today.
Do you want me to take a stab at it then?
Yes, so I would like you to give me your best guess, Colton. Which of these do you think is not like the others?
None of them are like each other. These are all different.
I hate you.
You showed me this one before. I
Dang
only
it.
recognized it by the tiny one. I hope you have more.
All right, fine. All right, well,
That was the freebie.
okay, fine. That was
I can figure it out. Is one of those not a eukaryote?
no, these are all eukaryotes.
Oh, okay.
So which one do you think?
Makes it a little harder than I thought. Maybe one was. I think maybe one was an archaea or bacteria, but I guess not.
No, that'll be later. He he he.
I'm guessing the amoeba because it's maybe the amoeba because it's like whatever it's called. Amoeba maybe.
Well, as Colton said, it's all of them. They're all different from each other. And that represents the dominant failure of doing this sort of thing. When all of your organisms are different from each other, asking someone which is not like the other kinda doesn't work. This method has a name in the creationist literature. It's called the cognitum. It almost literally is just eyeballing organisms and deciding which kind they go in. So I'm going to show you next where each of these organisms go. So the first, let me see. Okay, Paramecium, amoeba, capsospora, and trichoplax. Okay, can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, so way down here where it says TSAR, that's where the paramecium is. He's way over here. All the other three, amoeba, capsospora, and trichoplax, are over here. Amoebozoa is up here. So they're all in the rest of them are in the group Amorphia. The trichoplax and capsospora are within this group, Opisthocanta. Okay, so within Opisthocanta, you see here's Amoebozoa, and then these two branches are Opisthocanta. We have Capsospora, which is a member of this group, Ichthyosporia. And Trichoplax is actually an animal. It's a very basally derived animal, but it is an animal nonetheless. So, of these, they're all unlike each other. Trichoplax is a multicellular animal, so it has a little digestive tract, whereas these other ones don't.
So I guess the point here is to show that whereas uninformed individuals
So I guess
cannot reliably sit here and say, well, they all look the same, so I guess there's only one difference because uninformed opinions don't mean something.
So then I guess the answer would be because is that this
sort of. Well, I mean,
it's clade.
Well, yes, sort of, but they're all very distantly related to each other. The distances. It's, I believe the last common ancestor between animals and ichthyosporians lived almost 1 billion years ago. Our common ancestor with amoebas lived upwards of like 1.4 billion years ago, and paramecium probably upwards of like 1.8 billion years ago. So very, very distant past. We're talking like way deep in eukaryote evolutionary history. So let's go on to our next one. All right, Colton.
Damn, no more freebies.
Sorry, you get no more freebies. Okay, so I keep getting messages. All right, so a cognitum again. Which is not like the other?
I went over bacteria once in 10th grade, so I'm gonna try to take a stab at it. Man, you really had to pick all the rod-shaped.
That was the point. Look at how many bacilli there are.
Oh my god. This is okay. It would be a cheap shot to go after Escherichia, or however that's pronounced.
Escherichia?
Yeah, just because it's got a different name, so I'm not gonna take that route. I need to go by visual similarities of the organisms themselves.
Well, yeah, you don't really need to worry about colors because the color doesn't mean anything. It's
the color's just staining.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay. Oh, God, that makes it worse. Okay, I'm gonna go with Clostridium.
Lamont, what do you think?
Let's see.
And I'm only doing that because I think they might be longer. I really can't tell.
If I had to guess which one was a different clade, the other ones, I'd have to Chlorophexus.
All right, good guesses, but you're both wrong. All right, again, they're all different from each other.
Well, duh.
See, I was kind of hoping you were gonna pull some. Oh, look, no, they're all the same group.
Oh, I'll be doing that later. Don't you worry about it. I will pull both on you. Okay, Escherichia. See where up here where it says proteobacteria?
Yes.
Escherichia. Okay, so this is in one group. Then as we travel clockwise, down here we have Clostridium and Firmicutes, so the gram-positive group. Then Chloroplexus over here, and Chlorobium way over here. So yet again, so these all look virtually identical. They're all
tell them apart by staining of some, or like some sort of positive or negative staining.
But
among other things.
But wait, Jackson, you don't do this wrong. You're asking adults. You gotta ask a 5-year-old.
Oh, I forgot. My bad.
No, this is cheating because you can't see bacteria anyways.
Oh, there you go. You probably could. I mean, I'm sure you could use some sort of biochemical tests to differentiate which is which. You could use like different types of auger, and whatever pattern they produce is going to be indicative of what group they're in. Or if you do gram staining, you could show they're gram positive versus gram negative, things like that. So there are ways, but of course I'm a little snot, so I had to go this way. All right. And again, okay, this time I chose...
Okay, now they can't say that you're cheating.
Yes, I chose the subfamilies for a reason, which you'll see in a moment. But, Colton, take your shot.
My gut instinct is telling me cow, but I'm not trusting it now. You've sowed doubt. Okay, I am gonna go on I'm gonna take a wild stab here, and I'm gonna assume that goats split off earlier.
Okay. Okay, so you're going with Cabernet. All right, Lamont, what do you think?
Hey, well, these are all Theropods, right? Source. I can't pronounce the thing.
But these are all artiodactyls.
That was my thought.
Yeah, I mean they're all artiodactyls. They're all the even hooved mammals.
Wait a minute. Hang on a minute. Okay, wait. Can I revise my answer?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Cole.
I won't. Never mind. I have a suspicion, but I'm gonna stick with my gun.
All right. What do you think, Lamont?
You see the blood vessels like popping in my eye?
I hadn't looked at at your screen. Oh, I see you guys. Okay.
Guess.
It's almost like answers on a test. If I had chosen one with a D, it would have been A, B, C, and D.
I genuinely, if this was a test you'd given me in school, I would have turned it in blank.
All right, come on. You only got 4 answers. What's it going to be?
Antelopes.
All right, so we have one for Cabernet and one for Antilopinae. Well, Colton, Remember how earlier you said I was going to give you one where they're all the same?
Yeah, that was my suspicion.
These are all members of Bovidae. But why, why did I use the subfamily name?
Is
Well,
it
that
because
brings us-
Bovidae isn't actually a subfamily name?
Well, no, Bovidae is a family name. That brings us to a little paper by Answers in Genesis author Jean Lightner. She wrote this paper titled Mammalian Arc Kinds. And in this paper, it's very loud. And she said regarding Bovidae, quote, I think that's coming from Tony.
Yeah.
Tony,
Oh, really?
it's very loud. It's very loud on your end.
What are you hearing?
I hear it
Music?
sounds like someone showering and listening to music.
Okay, how loud is my voice?
Your voice sounds
Voice
fine.
is fine.
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can go to another location. Sorry, guys.
Oh, you're fine. This paper by Jean Lightner says regarding Bovidae, quote, there is considerable diversity in this family. Most people would tend to think of sheep and goats as distinct from cattle. For these reasons, it was decided to split the family and consider the subfamily, the level of the kind. This probably overestimates the number of kinds since antelope are found in more than one subfamily, but it is the simplest way to split until more information becomes available. Close quote. So, returning to these pictures, what that means is a family is a kind until random people decide that goats and cows are not the same, because that's how science works.
But don't you know that I still hear the shower? Oh, there we go.
Why are you showering?
Are you showering, Tony?
Yeah,
I'm in a hotel. I'm in a hotel and there's a fountain. And it's the only place I could go and be by myself because I'm traveling with a couple young ladies.
Oh, all right. Well, Tony, I'm gonna ask you first on the next one. So far, we've had two where they're all different and one where they're all the same.
So there was no. So they're not. So there's no genus or branch off of this bovine family here. That's one different clade.
Well, these are all members of the same family. According to creationists, the kind is a level of the subfamily. The kind is a level of the family, approximately. And when you read that paper, Mammalian Arc Kinds, Jean Lightner considers like pretty much all of the families except for Bovidae to be the kind level. But then once you get to your familiar barnyard animals, well, cows and goats are kind of different, so we're going to put them in separate groups. We're not going to look at morphology. We're not going to look at genetics. They look kind of different. Enough said.
Aren't these the same people that argue that there's more diversity within the species of or not even species, the subspecies of domestic dog than there is between this, and yet that's all one kind?
Look.
If
If they're consistent on their definition of kind, then that
And
means the
TD.
evolutionists can apply it to stuff. Also, sup?
But then we're the same kind as a hominidae.
No. It's all different.
All different.
Okay, anyways. All right. Maybe fossils. Maybe these can come to the rescue. So, Tony, I want you to answer first. Which do you think is not like the others?
And the dinosaurs now.
Can Tony hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. If I was to say one of them was not like the others, I'm probably wrong. Because I think they're all the same. But I'm going to say Eosinopteryx. But
Okay,
I would
good
say
guess.
they're all the same.
All right, that's a good guess. Okay, Colton, what you got?
That long one on the right.
Jenny and how long?
Yeah, I could not hope to pronounce that, but I'll go with that one.
All right, so we have one for Eosinopteryx, one for... Actually, I think all of you now could pick one, and one of you would have to be right? TD and...
No, because
I
that doesn't work.
I would actually say the unpronounceable Chinese one as well.
Okay, all right, so we have two for Jenny and Huolong, one for Eosinopteryx. Lamont, what do you pick?
If I had to guess one, I have to. I guess Microraptor.
All right. So here's where things get fun. Actually, I don't know what's the next slide. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. Here's where things get fun. Creationists have no single metric by which to differentiate birds from dinosaurs. And when I say dinosaurs, obviously I mean non-avian dinosaurs. These Eosinopteryx, Xenianhualong, and Microraptor are dinosaurs. Archaeopteryx is a bird. However, by creationist standards, because they follow Alan Fiducia, so everything with feathers must be a bird, all 4 of these are birds.
Well,
It's kind of a problem.
Didn't they have a 2018 paper where they started finally begrudgingly accepting that some dinosaurs may have feathers? Ah!
Would you look at that? An ANOPA study of Coelurosaurian theropods by David Cavanaugh, and I quote, "It seems at least reasonable for creationists to consider the possibility that the Jurassic bird, Archaeopteryx, really is related to theropod dinosaurs, not as descendant, but instead as their ancestor," close quote. What? And I would also like to mention the recent AIG talk by David Menton. Thank you to Dapper Dino for bringing that to my attention, where David Menton said the dromaeosaur Xenianhualong, so the Microraptor is a dromaeosaurid also, is exactly like Archaeopteryx. Now, when you look at them, they really do look pretty similar. Look at the hands, for instance. You have 3 unfused fingers in all of them. And at the tail is this long rod of fused vertebrae. It's the same sort of design in all of these. Xenianhualong is actually a troodontid, Eosinopteryx is an anchiornithid, and Microraptor is a dromaeosaurid, whereas Archaeopteryx is an actual bird. But once you start getting into these sort of gray areas, it really becomes hard to differentiate them. It's almost like they're what's the word for it?
Closely related?
Exactly. They're transitional. Who would have thunk it?
So, in scientific terms, what's this the outside clade?
Actually, that's kind of funny because it depends on who you ask.
Oh, even scientists?
Yes, the researchers are actually.
Fiducia is the expert here.
Do it.
Clearly, Fiducia is the expert here.
Right. The funny thing is, researchers are actually divided on which is more closely related. Papers tend to say you have the troodontids and the Microraptor, and the dromaeosaur. So Xenianhualong and Microraptor would be sister. Eosinopteryx would be more closely related to the birds. But pretty much all of these switch depending on new finds because they're all so close in morphology.
So science changes? Oh no.
Science does indeed change. In fact, Eosinopteryx and the other members of Anchiornithidae look so much like birds that they've all been considered birds at one point.
So were all 4 of these species on the ark then, or only one of them?
Well, that depends on who you ask. It could be that there were different, that each one is a different kind, or maybe all of them, as indicated by Cavanaugh, are the same. Maybe they are all one kind.
Remember, you've also got the weird fringe creationists who still make their appearances in the YouTube comments section, among other places, that seem to think that the reason you can't tell them apart is probably because they're all fake. Because you still have the people who think Archaeopteryx is a forgery and stuff.
Oh my god! I just want to just take.
Yeah, remember, there's a lot of creationists out there that think that all of the fossils that we present are made out of plaster of Paris.
Right, which is it's funny because I was thinking of that. I was thinking of when I did my video, or when we did the video Aviale. One of the things that C. Brown and a couple other creationists posted in the comments was these are reconstructions, even though we showed the fossils also. So No, it's like, because of course you can't look up the fossils or anything like that. But for this purpose, I wanted to show only the fossils, not reconstructions, so that you can see really how morphologically similar they are to each other.
But Jackson, all you can prove is that these things died. You can't prove they had any kids.
Of
Oh
course.
God, just end me.
Of course. So we have creationists waffling all across the board on what the heck each of these are. So, all right. Which of these? Ooh, what the heck was that?
I know some of this.
Okay.
All right. Which is not like the other? Shoot, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to say Pachycetus.
So Lamont says Pachycetus. Colton, what do you say?
I'm gonna say they're all the same.
All right, Tony, what do you say? And TJ?
Well, I'm going to say they're all cetaceans, but I would say if there's one that is different, it'd be Pachycetus, but it's still not that different from Ambulocetus.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
TD, what do you say?
All same.
Well,
Okay, so you guys are all saying they're all.
If TD's gonna pick that, I guess I'll go for Zygo. I can't. It's too pixelated.
Zygorhiza? You can't. Oh, it can't.
Zygorhiza.
Ooh.
It's not
There it is.
showing up.
oh, wait a minute.
I got it fixed.
Oh,
I'm gonna
maybe
say
it's-
that one because I'm getting the suspicion that's the one that has like half baleen.
That's not the one that's in the whale descendancy.
No, I'm thinking it's probably the one that started the change from toothed whales to baleen whales, which would be a valid distinction.
But still, Pachycetus is still the clay. Well, at least in non-creationist terms, I say Pachycetus is the transitional. It's the earliest transitional film, I think, because
Okay, so
Okay, question: Are we answering this question? I have a question now. Are we answering this by actually clades, like scientist clades, or create? Or
I'm talking about like
creationists. Oh, never mind. I've been thinking of this as a real person,
oh,
not as like a creationist. I'm thinking of actually clades and scientists.
no, I mean, well, they're all ultimately related. I was just thinking of this in terms of how would a creationist answer if you were to say,
and that if we're doing it by that way, yeah, Pachycetus, I'm gonna have to say would be considered the different one.
If
Okay.
we're doing it by creationists, I'm actually going to say Basilosaurus.
interesting.
Basilosaurus might be the correct one, I think.
Very interesting set of answers we have here. Okay, who's ready
I
for
would
the
actually,
reveal?
if I was a creationist, I would probably try to divide the top two from the bottom two, and not just say one of them is not like the other. I could say the top two are obviously tetrapods. the two below, although one of them appears to have a floating pelvis, that they don't seem to have four limbs.
Okay, all right. These are some interesting answers. Ready for the reveal?
Yep.
Mammal kinds, how many were on the ark by Kurt Wise? And I quote, vestigial legs and hips in modern whales confirm legged ancestors of the whales existed only a short time ago. It is possible that the purely marine cetaceans of the present were derived from semi-aquatic or even terrestrial ancestors on the ark. Close
I
quote.
fucking knew it.
So,
Well, that would get around the issue of why the mosasaurs
Yeah.
and megalodons didn't kill them.
so that means, even according to creationists, oddly enough, though not the Discovery Institute anymore, all four of these are related to each other. Pachycetus was on the ark, or Ambulocetus, and once they got off, they evolved into Zygorhiza and Basilosaurus and all the other whales. Now,
it really is uncanny how close their skulls are.
that's why I picked these. These are the earliest representatives. If you look, the teeth and the heads, the skulls are the same shape.
Yeah.
Now, the only really thing that is kind of interesting that changes is the nostril. In Pachycetus, it's at the very tip of the snout, just like in other terrestrial mammals. Same with Ambulocetus, it's pretty far up here on the head. But when you get to Zygorhiza, it's about halfway up the head. Because it's no longer just being used for a nose. It's being used for breathing while underwater. And by the time you get to Basilosaurus, it's way back here on the head, behind the eyes. And so, of course, in today, it's way back here with today's whales. So
I have a question for you, Jackson.
Shoot.
I have been told by many creationists that there are no samples or no specimens of Ambulocetus that actually contain the entire snout, including the nasal cavity.
I can answer that, actually. I talked with Hans Thewissen, the guy who discovered it, and they had actual valid reasons to reconstruct it.
Yeah. This
There was other anatomy in the nose which actually indicated where its position was. So they had to have morphological basis for it.
Yeah, it's also a lot of times what happens with fossils, I'm sure you guys know this, well, anyone who doesn't know, is a lot of times you won't find the whole critter. You'll find pieces of this critter, and since organisms are bilaterally symmetrical, if you can construct one side of it, then you can construct the other. And if you have a specimen in one museum which has the piece that's missing by the specimen in the other museum, you can just copy that and use it for the other one. Well, and so that's the sort of the thing that's going on here. At least I would imagine with all of these.
And did anybody ever seen the documentary Walking with Whales?
I haven't.
I watched it. They're talking about how they're all found in the Pakistan area, and how the Pakistan had they recognized it. The Pakistan had an ear. It was like a whale ear.
Yeah, they have this uniquely ossified inner ear area called an involucrum. So what's cool about Pakicetus and how we know that before there were genetic studies, the idea that whales were artiodactyls is based on their wrist, was based on the ankle joints. The artiodactyls have a very unique ankle bone, or have a uniquely shaped ankle bone. This bone called the astragalus. It is a very unique shape for artiodactyls. Well, the early whales, Pakicetus, Ambulocetus, they have that unique astragalus. They also have the unique involucrum of whales.
Oh,
and then
so where did we find out that these guys were related to hippos?
Well, that was with the genetic studies. The idea originally was that whales were descended from this group called the Mesonychids, which were these hoofed carnivores, or most closely related to the Mesonychids. And that has since fallen out of favor, and genetics has rooted the whales next to the water horse.
I get it.
People were surprised about that one.
Maybe. Hippos are kind of similar to whales in a lot of ways. They're both, largely hairless. They're semi-aquatic. They're pretty neat.
You probably one must have either in the water, at least with the toothed whales and the hippos.
Yeah. All right. A parade of perissodactyls. So, my dudes.
Anybody in chat want to guess too?
Tony, what you got?
I'm screwed. I can't tell the difference. The only thing I could tell is perhaps proportionally the head of Phenacadus or Phenacadus. I don't know if I pronounced it right. I don't care.
It's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, proportionally the head is smaller, but and perhaps the expanse of the rib cage. It looks like it's a little bit more of has a crouching stance, while the others seem to be almost standing upright. So that would be my guess, but that's the weakest guess I've guessed at the Super Bowl and had better guesses.
I actually think your guess is decent. All right. Who's next?
Go, TD. I'm still thinking.
I am unfortunately not that familiar with perissodactyls, so I'm gonna pickle here.
That's the point. No one's supposed to be familiar. No one's supposed to know.
Well, I think somebody in the chat, Moish, tell us which one of these is not like the others. Come on.
Okay, God, I'd have to say if I had to. God, this is, again, I'm thinking as a non-creationist here, but this maybe hide a. Heptadon, I guess.
Heptadon, okay. So we have one for Phenacodus, one for Heptadon. Colton and TD, you guys are up.
If I was if I was Ken Hovind, I would guess that it would be Hyracotherium, because of course we know it's a Hyrax, isn't it?
Oh no! Oh my god!
Hyracotherium, a horse?
Yeah. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Crap.
They're all
I'm guessing that
Come
one.
on.
All right, TD, what's your guess? Actually, the fact that it's a horse doesn't really matter all that much. So. You only got 4 answers. Pick one.
Turn it in this test.
You know what? Screw it. I'm going with Heptadon.
So we have 2 for Heptadon, 1 for Phenacodus, 1 for Hyracotherium. All right. Well, here we have another instance where they're sort of all different and yet all very close. Hyracotherium is, in fact, a horse. It's one of the most basal horses. Hyraceus is a rhino, one of the most basal rhinos. Heptadon is one of the most basal tapirs. Phenacodus is basal to all of these. Phenacodus is actually... Do what?
Suddenly I can't believe myself. Oh, wow. All of them are different. Okay.
Yes, sort of. Now, if you look at these skeletons, Hyracotherium, Hyraceus, and Heptadon all look almost identical because at the time they were very closely related. This is like Eocene. So all these guys are actually perissodactyls. These are crown perissodactyls. And they all came from a very similar stock, which is something like Phenacodus. Phenacodus is also very similar, yet slightly different. It's got a longer tail. As Tony said, the head is a bit shorter. But go ahead.
Originally, I guess Heptadon, or I guess it looked like that was an even toed, but I think the other ones were odd toed. I was guessing.
Yeah, they're all odd-toed ungulates. What's interesting about Phenacodus is once you kind of get outside the perissodactyls, their ancestors, like Phenacodus, look very similar to the ancestors of the artiodactyls, the even-hooved ungulates. And then, once you get to kind of the base of the ungulates, you start meeting animals that look kind of like the mammals at the base of the carnivorans. And the reason for that is Ferae, which is the pangolins and carnivorans, are the sister group to the ungulates. And so their fossils, as you get closer and closer to that base, look more and more and more similar. You start getting these weird omnivorous forms, things like the condylarths, where it's really hard to tell what the heck these things are because common ancestry is true. Who would have guessed it?
Oh, that brings up a point.
So, and I want to show you this awesome quote from the paper Fossil Equidae Monobaraminic Stratomorphic Series by Cavanaugh, Wood and Wise, which says, quote, despite the negative correlation observed when comparing Hyracotherium directly to Equus, Hyracotherium positively correlates with Mesohippus. Which positively correlates with Lobopods. Which positively correlates with Parahippus. Which positively correlates with Equus. Even by changing the probability cutoff from 0.05 to 0.25, the overall pattern remains. At p is less than 0.25, Hyracotherium positively correlates with Myohippus, which positively correlates with Parahippus, which positively correlates with Equus. Thus, we can draw a line of correlation that links Hyracotherium and Equus, close quote. So for years, despite the creationists raging about horse evolution not existing, here we have Cavanaugh, Wood, and Wise saying, yes, it does.
That brought up a good point.
Which is? What do you say?
What about the odd-toed ungulates?
Can you see it? Can you see it in the picture or not?
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he does have the. I think these are I don't know if these are vestigial at this point or what, but yeah, he does seem to only have 4 toes. But these are the odd-toed ungulates. So today, well, at this point, this is so far back that he was probably still in the process of losing his toes, because today all of these have either the odd toes. So there's evolution for you. There he is in the process of losing his toes. Over to Hyracotherium, or the horse line. It's kind of interesting. They drop their 2 outer toes, and so there's a series with 3 toes for a while, and they drop those, and so they're left with only the basically the hoof is the middle fingernail. So
Moesia, are you a creationist or what?
Who?
I was wondering.
All right.
So Jackson, while we're waiting for an answer to that, can I ask you, are all horses in a perpetual state of flipping us off?
Yes.
Aww.
Yes, I've always knew that, because that's the middle finger. So when the horses are rearing up, they're flicking you off.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you, humans.
With the heptadon down here, see, the 3rd toe is the most prominent. That's the middle finger. So yes, so they're always flipping us off.
Ugh.
Isn't that gravy?
With all 4 limbs.
Exactly.
That takes effort.
Could you imagine? All right, and now time for the last one, the Lobopods. Because you know what, I had been so vertebrate centric for this whole thing. I thought to myself, you know what, I'll be nice and give the invertebrates a little bit of due. So, my dudes, which is which? Which is not like the others?
Now we're stuck in the land of not being able to tell anything from anything else.
All right, I'm going to say that just because the Siberian,
Okay.
I can barely read it, because it kind of looks like a seahorse.
Seahorse.
That would be my guess, because they all look the same to me.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. Oh, Colt, what you got?
Ishea, or however that's pronounced.
Yeah, I have no idea how that one's pronounced. I barely try to pronounce it.
I'm gonna say the hallucinus.
Hallucigenia, okay. TD, what do you think?
Is it bad if I think it's Onycotian?
All right, so what I love about this is you all gave different answers, and I think that's hilarious. Because, drum roll, again, they're all sort of closely related to each other, but they're in different clades. Each of these are stem members of different clades. Siberion is a stem member of the arthropod lineage. Hallucigenia, and Onychodictyon are stem members of the onychophoran lineage, so the velvet worms. And Shia, however you pronounce it, I have no idea. I'm not a paleontologist.
I think it's
really care.
Ishaya.
It could be. I'm not a paleontologist. I don't really care that much. Is actually basal to the other ones. Ishaya is with, you have arthropods, tardigrades, and onychophorans, and they're all together in the panarthropod lineage. Ishaya is basal to all of them. So the common ancestor of those 3 groups would have looked like Ishaya. So again, we have a bunch of very similar, yet at the same time not, organisms, and they're all part of these different lineages because, again, it's almost like they're transitional. They have characters in common, but they're also slightly different, representing the ancestors of each of the major groups.
So, but Jackson, so one gave birth to the other species, you're saying?
No, they're not. They're not the direct ancestors. They're cousins. They're members of the stem lineages. They aren't the direct ancestors of.
But Jackson, if these 3 species came from a common ancestor, where did that common ancestor find its wife?
You got me now. I don't know what to say.
No, I got a better one. Why are there still velvet worms?
Oh my god. Oh my goodness, I don't even know how to respond to that.
Hey, did any of you see the video on the Brain Scoop about worms?
No. Is it good?
Yeah.
Ugh. I don't like worms.
Well,
Yeah,
these are not
they're-
technically worms.
Well, they talked. Well, I guess that's right. But talked about how there was 12 different phylums of worms, and she was joking that so we're more related to sharks and lancelets, and these worms are related to each other.
Yes. Yeah, you have groups like the nematomorphs and the nematodes and Priapulida, which is the penis worms, Nematomorpha, the horsehair worms, and Nematoda, the roundworms, are all more closely related to arthropods than they are to the annelids. Annelids, what's another one? What are arrowworms? Cadignaths. Actually, I don't think there's a consensus on Cadignaths right now. Annelids are more closely related to octopus and rotifers and those sorts of things. They're members of the group Lophotrochozoa. And then you have groups like the acorn worms, who are more closely related to us. They're actually deuterostomes. Their group, Hemichordata, is sister to the group containing starfish, so Echinodermata. And then you have worms that are not closely related to any of those, such as Xenocoelomorpha, which are actually basal bilaterians. So yeah, there are lots and lots of worms. These are the Lobopods, are the armored worms, they're a paraphyletic grouping. So here
Hey,
you go,
Jackson.
Yes.
I got a question about the Orphotrochozoa.
Okay.
How closely related are they to mollusks?
The mollusks are a member of Lophotrochozoa.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, you have like mollusks, Rotifera, Annelida, let's see, mollusca. What else? You have a whole bunch of little groups of weird things within Lophotrochozoa. It's a huge clade. It's absolutely massive. Well, it's massive in diversity, which is funny because then you have the arthropods, which are members of Ecdysozoa, which are still the largest in terms of species. So,
Were they all one worm kind?
Exactly. Was there a worm kind? That's a good question.
Dude, who knows at this point?
Down here you can see Aishaya. See, it's at the base. It's kind of sister to all of Panarthropoda. You have Hallucigenia here. What did I say? Siberion. So here's Siberion up here, so more closely related to the arthropods. You have Onychodictyon here. Well, they don't have a picture of it here, but
I do recognize the vicious killer from the Cambrian.
Yeah, Opabinia. So these are kind of the stem arthropods way up here at the top. So as you're getting closer to being a true arthropod, and they have little tardigrades. I like tardigrades; they're pretty cute. Okay, I think this is the last, or one of the last slides. So, visualizing. Oh, right. I put this one down because we went through morphology and fossils, and I didn't cover genetics. Well, rather than show you guys like a set of genetic analyses, which what would be the point of that? I decided just to show you a quote from Todd Wood on that, which I thought was funny regarding the same subject. So, visualizing barometric distances using classical multidimensional scaling by Todd Wood. Quote, for example, Robinson and Cavanaugh found significant positive barometric distance correlation between humans and primates when using molecular data. Huh. This violated their proposal that significant positive correlation indicated taxic continuity. Wood found a similar phenomenon when analyzing morphological and molecular data sets of grasses. Significant negative correlation could be detected only with the morphological data set, but not with the molecular data set of the same taxa. Wood interpreted his results and those of Robinson and Cavanaugh to indicate that discontinuity and continuity should be detected holistically without an overrepresentation of a single type of characters, e.g. molecular. Basically, when genetics contradicts your studies, ignore genetics.
Oh well, that's perfectly acceptable, obviously, in the creation model.
Yeah,
I'm having trouble understanding how you can holistically evaluate two data sets which are in complete contradiction with each other.
Well, my boy,
that isn't
creationism.
holistic. That's not what holistic means.
If you holistically ignore the holistic data set, then you get a holistic picture.
You know that if you presented them a bunch of radiometric dates that were discordant and somebody said, oh, well, you have to examine it holistically, they'd screech that that's invalid. So I guess that only applies here.
Yeah, I mean, it's only holistic when you need it. But I just love this quote so much. Literally, that humans and primates are connected genetically, but my presuppositions about baraminology so they
So
can't.
if we did what they do and quote mine this, what would it say?
Well, you could. Well, if they were to quote something like what's his name? Like Tompkins, humans and chimps aren't that closely related genetically, I would just toss this down and say, yeah, they are. We can prove that even your guys say that they are. And actually, Tompkins and Wood, which of course nobody ever hears about, have had little spats over.
Really?
Yes, over how different humans and chimps are genetically. Tompkins was throwing around the Y chromosome argument, like, oh, look, the Y chromosome of chimps is very different from that of humans. And Wood said, yeah, but that doesn't really matter because there are factors involved in the gametes, in the sex chromosomes, which are not involved with the other chromosomes. And you have such things as you can have like large mutational events in the sex chromosomes, but because they don't undergo recombination, these large mutations aren't going to get fixed.
So I just want to say real fast, we have 7 viewers, but only 3 thumbs up. What's up with that, people?
Exactly. More of you should like this video. It's got me talking in it. So would you like to know more about baraminology? Well, I have a place where you can learn all of this and far more. It's the book that RJ Downard and I wrote. The rocks were there. So buy it. Give me money. So
that's not desperate.
Give me money.
I can confirm it is a good purchase.
We've got to have some shilling. Oh, we have a thumb down.
I had a hard time explaining that to my roommate because she sees this book show up. The rocks were there. She's like, "Oh, what's that about?" I was like, "Refuting creationist arguments," and she's like, "Dork."
Ha! Tony's a dork. So, did you guys enjoy? Was it as much fun as you imagined it would be?
Yeah.
I have to go get checked for an aneurysm, but other than that, I'm sure it was great.
Yeah. I can.
I actually did like it, Jackson.
Yeah. Once I start thinking like a creationist, not like a scientist, it's like, oh, it's easy to answer. When you're thinking of a scientist, it's pretty hard answer sometimes.
Yeah, the problem with knowing a bit of systematics is getting to screw with people.
I enjoyed being shown how little I know of systematics.
It's when you
know little. I had no idea what half of what he was showing even was. The only reason I know Hyracotherium was a horse was because I heard his voice say it in the back of my mind from like another video of his, and that's the only way I was able to make a connection with it.
Yeah, what this presentation showed, or what I at least hoped it conveyed, was that when you have people like Kent Hovind saying one of these is not like the other, drink some water, it doesn't work that way. You can't just group organisms by that facile method. It just doesn't work. There are lots more factors that have to go into these sorts of things. If you're looking at fossils, how many people can look at a fossil and assess the morphological characters? How many people can look at DNA and sequence it and that sort of stuff. Not a whole lot of people. So it's very silly to try to argue that. It's very silly to argue that these things aren't related when they are, and even creationists can't decide amongst themselves who is and isn't related to anything else. It's all just one big failure.
Wood's argument about whales seeming to have come off the ark sure has not been taken well by a lot of the creationists I've discussed with.
No.
He's also argued that some certain Australopithecines are early humans that were there that were available or around at the Tower of Babel.
Yes, he argued in a paper that Homo habilis and Rudolfensis, which may or may not be valid, but at least Homo habilis and Australopithecus sediba were around, and they were humans. He actually used baraminology to show that Australopithecus sediba is more like humans than like other Australopiths.
So, were they on the ark too? I mean, was that a little awkward?
Was that who Noah and everyone was?
That's a good question. Who knows?
I do like the image of either an Australopithecine Noah.
Or
that would be intrigued.
I like to see if they were there on the ark too with Noah. Like, hi, how you doing?
The thing is, they can't attribute any of these guys to living in like a pre-flood ecological zone or something to explain why they're stratigraphically separated. And if they all lived at the same time, and they all clearly came to certain areas, they should be found together.
No.
There should not be a stratigraphic separation, because why would we see a consistent sequence of Australopithecines came to Africa, I guess, before anyone else did?
They just booked it across the Sahara.
Well,
I apologize if you covered this, though. I did also want to mention that Phil Center used the very same methodology that Todd Wood uses to link, and show that birds, dinosaurs, specifically theropods and coelurosaurs, were the same holobaramin.
Yeah, he used ANOPA. Yeah, just like the study that I showed. He did that, I think, in two separate papers, and it's hilarious because creationists look at that and some of them would argue to jettison baraminology. And in fact, a number of them, because you have the ones like Todd Wood and like Kurt Wise who say, we have to be very systematic about this. We have to have rigorous approaches. Mm-hmm. These are the guys who are actually really trying to do it. They're trying to be consistent, unlike
Ken Hovind.
or Woodmarap or Ham. These guys are actually really trying to do this, and with their consistency, they're kind of kicking the other creationists over. The decades of creationists saying Hyracotherium is not a horse, decades of them saying birds are not related to dinosaurs, and then these guys come along and say, well, for being consistent, we can't really differentiate them.
So,
and I appreciate
I would like to see Woodmarap come at this at the issue of Hyracotherium, because I know he yelled about it so much.
Oh yeah, Dapper makes a point. Yeah, I know he rejects baraminology. Yes, because some creationists, and I did a video, the source methods approach. It was I guess not long after I met RJ, where one of the papers I mentioned is about a creationist saying we should reject baraminology because it's leading people to these sorts of conclusions that birds are dinosaurs and whatnot.
But these kinds look like this other kind, but that's not possible.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was wondering, in like a thousand years or so, if they're going to start saying Chihuahuas and Great Danes are different kinds.
Well, that is actually a very really, it's more an interesting question for evolution than baraminology, because a Great Dane and a Chihuahua, if they ever met in the wild, Great Dane didn't immediately eat the Chihuahua. Odds are that these two can't mate, right? There's a mechanical barrier, let's say, going on there. But that we understand they're genetically related to each other, right? They're both Canis familiaris or Canis lupus familiaris, whichever one you want to call it. But there's a separation. There's this morphological separation. So would they be considered different species?
Pre-zygotic barrier.
Exactly, pre-zygotic barriers. I've heard, and I think you've actually pointed this out in one of your videos, Tony, how like Hovindistas try to use that as an argument against evolution. That like if we looked at dogs in the fossil record, we would identify them as different species.
Yeah, I did the comparison of human skulls to dog skulls, and that dog skulls, I mean, they look so different compared to each other, and I would say the disparity in their morphology is far greater than there is between Australopithecines and modern day humans. And yeah, I kind of illustrated that in my own way.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a very good point. If you look at a pug, look at a Chihuahua, look at a Great Dane, these are all so different, and yet they're all the same kind, whereas we're not the same kind as Australopiths.
Yeah.
It's the problem is baraminology. Well, kinds, I don't think was never meant to be a taxonomic label. I don't think.
No.
I don't think the authors of the Bible ever thought,
So
this is Elephantidae kind. This is or
No,
Ornithorhynchidae kind.
the authors of the Bible classified things by what they did and not what they were.
Right, exactly. And so for creationists to come along way later and say, we're going to use this as a sort of taxonomic approach is kind of ridiculous. It also really doesn't work given both the swath of organisms that exist today and in the fossil record.
So do we know who the first creationist and when it was that used the word kinds and stuff?
Oh, it has to be going back at least to like the 20s or 30s.
Yeah,
Because at least by the 1940s, when ecological zonation for flood geology was proposed, it was already in use.
yeah, you had
So
like George
it's pretty
McCready
early.
Price and those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I think people like McCready never wanted it to go above genus. Anything more was too much.
Sure. Yeah, because he was even opposed to natural selection and speciation for much of his life. It wasn't even until his later years that like the fruit fly experiments kind of convinced him that, yeah, we can do speciation in the lab too. It's really not that hard.
Hey,
I hate to go over this. Actually, you're kind of right. In the 40s, it was 1941. Frank Lewis Marsh actually published Fundamental Biology, and he's actually the one that combined the Hebrew words bara, meaning to create, and min from the word to form the word baramin.
Yeah.
So he actually was a Seventh-day Adventist. It would be interesting since a lot of the creationists think that Seventh-day Adventists are heretics,
Yeah.
to know that they're actually using a heretical term.
I was actually just reading an article on creation.com today where they were vehemently denying any connection with modern creationism and the Seventh-day Adventist denomination. And their source was to go against a literal historian with a book by Henry Morris that was explicitly written to refute the idea they were connected to Seventh-day Adventists.
I have a question about that. You mentioned the fruit flies and how they can change really fast. Is that how the creationists think that all animals they got the ark, that they bred like fruit flies and this mutated really fast and all the species now super evolution?
Well, clearly they were all originally fruit flies, and that allowed them to get to different continents.
Yeah. They all had lifespans of like 1 week, and they had thousands of offspring.
Oh, that must be how.
I've noticed that the criticism of fruit flies seems also to be because they do change rather quickly, and the ultimate creationist argument is, yeah, but it's still a fruit fly. And then I've noticed that the misrepresentation that they make about experiments on fruit flies in genetics, they constantly are saying they keep trying to do this and they just won't stop being fruit flies. And there is no experiment that was ever done to try to turn a fruit fly into something else. I don't know what they're making up for themselves.
Right. It's the problem only applies, I think, to the problem is we have the we have an incomplete fossil record in part. If we had a complete fossil record, aside from being up to our eyes and bones, we would have the entire sequence, and it would be virtually impossible to differentiate species. With short-term experiments, and even with long-term experiments,
Or if we get DNA from things older than 50,000 years.
well, yeah. But with these experiments, you're right. It's never gonna turn into a not fruit fly, because even if a million years from now it looks like an elephant, it's still gonna be a fruit fly. You know, you can never escape your parental categories. You can form new categories, but you can never escape your ancestry. As Peter once put it to me, how many generations do you have to go before you're not the descendant of your ancestors?
Yeah.
And so, they're always going to be eukaryote kind. They're always going to be animal kind.
Yeah. I made this joke before. I'll make it again. In a million years or so, once we colonize Mars, and there's still creationists around, they'll be like, if we came from Earthlings, why are there still Earthlings?
I can't wait to see all the Martian geology and how that all fits catastrophically, because that ain't fitting. There was no global flood for that. You got to fit that all in Creation Week.
Although, haven't there been creationists who have floated the idea that there was also a global flood on Mars?
Yes, there have been.
That's hilarious. I love that.
Even though we know that Mars was never globally flooded.
I love that.
I've never heard that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, every single celestial body.
You get fringe creationists who genuinely think that the pre-flood world was Mars.
Well, technically, I brought this up.
I wish I was joking, Tony, but it's a thing.
Yeah, I brought this up during Colton's geology slideshow. Technically, slush ball Earth or snowball Earth, the Earth was covered with water that during that time. Ice or slush is water. So
yeah, technically, if you believe snowball or slush ball Earth, not really a global flood, but yeah, there was an Earth covered by water at one point.
Well, probably most of it. Maybe some equatorial regions, but yeah.
Erica,
I don't remember either Mars or a flood on Mars, or Mars being the pre-flood Earth being in the Bible.
Well,
but TD, you didn't read between the lines well enough.
Should I get the black light?
Yes.
Maybe Mars is where the real Garden of Eden was.
Well, think about it. If there was less gravity, how do you think the lizards got so big that they became dinosaurs? Checkmate.
Oh my God! When the first time I heard Kit Hovind say a chameleon became a triceratops, I wanted to die. That's just, they developed novel hip characteristics to be through their lifetime. What the frick?
Well, Jackson,
the pubis points. It goes from pointing forward to pointing backwards during its lifetime.
Well, Jackson, dinosaurs are lizards after all, because they're terrible lizards. So
no,
they're lizards. That's the name.
Jackson,
Okay.
Jackson, Kent doesn't even know the definition of dinosaur.
Dr. Dino doesn't know the definition of a dino. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk?
I mean, just the idea that during an organism's lifetime, its bones are going to shift to different positions within its body. Could you imagine? That? Like if our hips inverted throughout our lifetime?
Isn't
That's like the equivalent.
Isn't that some Lamarckian thinking?
Doesn't that mean that at some point I can hope for my knees to completely invert and I can be a human flamingo?
There's actually a creationist argument that's not dissimilar from that, and it's in regards to no, you've heard it. I know you've heard it. It's Neanderthals. How all of their features are features of old age, and they never bother to address that we have mostly infants. Most of our fossils of our specimens of Neanderthal are infants, and they have these features too. They never explain that. They never explain how the hyoid bone has never descended in these particular species, even though it definitely descends in modern in adult humans. They never explain that. But I always thought it was kind of funny that they attribute these specific features to Neanderthal that don't exist in humans, in modern humans, but at the same time, they never address that they still exist in infant Neanderthals.
That's actually a very good point. I like that. I didn't even think about that, but I do like that.
It's genetic entropy, don't you know?
That was my thought.
Dapper mentioned in the comments about the rostral bone. As lizards, like the chameleon, don't have this bone called the predentary bone. All ornithischians are united by having this bone, which juts out from their lip, or the bottom jaw, which is called the predentary bone. All of them have it, and yet no lizards have it. So again, they would have to not only change the orientation of the bones within their body during their lifetime, they would have to develop new bones during their lifetime. You know, that makes sense, right? That's explicable on creationism.
But Jackson, you all your love for animals today in your slideshow. Has anyone ever argued for plant baraminology, or is that just not a thing they do?
There are. Well, I mentioned Wood did his morphological or his genetic analysis with grasses, but grasses aren't, and neither are ferns or even pretty flowers, aren't nearly as charming as your barnyard animals. So for the most part, they're really not going to touch plants. They're not going to touch protists. They're sure as heck not going to touch bacteria. So basically everything that's not a vertebrate gets punted.
Okay.
They don't care about it. They don't think about it. And you can search their articles. They barely even think about fish. It's really just tetrapods for the most part.
You guys ever watch the YouTube channel Minute Earth? I'm
a subscriber.
Yeah, I remember one time they did one like that where they said, "This is not what's a pine tree? This is not a pine tree. This is not a pine tree. This is a pine tree."
Yeah, you're pretty much never going to find creationist articles about plants, about bacteria, protists. There are a few. I've seen like one. I think it was written by Georgia Purdom about coenoflagellates. But it was kind of stupid. There are a few that they've written about algae, because algal experiments have, as Tony knows, generated multicellular organisms. So that's kind of funny. So a few of them kind of snark at the algae experiments, but they really don't do much. They don't do like any of the systematics. They basically just say, well, there's a lot of stuff involved in becoming multicellular. So nerdy. They don't talk about, what is Volvox related to Uterina? Is that related to Chlamydomonas? Who's related and who's not? They don't do that kind of stuff. That systematics is not part of baraminology. Because who cares about algae? No one even likes algae, right? I'm sure Matt Herron would be like,
it's just a plant, man.
It's just a plant. Yeah. It doesn't even matter that red algae and brown algae are completely different from plants, but they're all the same. Good Lord.
I don't see it evolving legs, so I mean, why would I care?
Fun fact, actually, there are different plants. There are different plant-like organisms that have developed eye-like structures. So you've all heard of Euglena?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so Euglena is this little protist. It basically engulfed an algae at some point in the past, and now it has their chloroplast and uses that for photosynthesis. Well, it has a little eye spot. It basically channels light from the surrounding environment onto the base of its flagellum, and that tells it which way to swim. And there are other organisms. That do this as well. Other little flagellated species. which I was reading about a couple weeks ago, and so I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. But I think that's pretty neat. What kind are they in? Why would God make a whole bunch of little plant-like critters with eye spots?
I believe there's
It's a
even
kink thing.
I believe there is even a case, and I'm sorry I don't know the technicalities on it, but it's basically a type of cancer from canines which has become free-living and contagious.
Oh, that's from the Tasmanian devil, I think.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it like falls off the body and it continues. Yeah, it's like horrifying.
Are they marsupials?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrifying. You think about Darwin was upset by the theodicy of ichneumoniid wasps. What would he think about like horsehair worms, which convince their host to jump into water and drown themselves?
Let me see.
Oh, by the way, that's how all the marsupials got to Australia. All the two kangaroos put them all in their pouches, and then they hopped like really, really fat, one big hop to Australia.
Right. Someone asked in the comments, what's the worst creationist argument you ever heard? And honestly, I don't know. But I'm very interested to hear Colton and Tony, I'm very interested to hear your answers. What is the worst creationist argument you've ever heard?
Make sure. Let me think. Okay. The worst creationist argument I ever heard was, why does Venus spin backwards?
Oh, that's a good one.
That's fair.
Evolution.
Actually,
if the Big Bang exploded, why does Venus spin backwards?
Yeah,
actually, Lamont, you just reminded me, Lamont, of my favorite, because Matt Powell said that one, which also reminded me of something else Matt Powell said, which was that the comet or the meteor that killed the dinosaurs did it by decapitating them.
Oh God, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Lamont. I forgot about that one.
I think I just heard the worst creationist argument.
Yeah, one of the worst.
He literally thinks it like I guess it flew around. It got into orbit, like near Earth orbit, just kind of not grazing the surface, but went around the Earth, decapitating all the dinosaurs.
While a 6 mile wide. A 6 mile wide asteroid managed to only partially be in the atmosphere?
Well, no, Jackson. It wasn't an asteroid. It was the moon, because the moon was so close to Earth. 200 million years ago.
That's fine.
Now that's actually that would have been my answer, actually. And by the way, that the person that asked that question was Eric Viertheller, and I hope I didn't pronounce your name too badly. But yeah, he and I have been battling creationists on Facebook, I think for years now. But the one I think is the dumbest, or for me it's the dumbest, is the moon argument, because all the information you need to disprove the argument is in the argument. when they say that the Earth is I forget the number, but 360 something thousand kilometers away, and it's receding at a rate of I don't know what the rate is, 2.3. All you have to do is do the math. 2.3 centimeters or whatever it is times 4.5 billion years, and you'll find that the moon it hasn't even crossed half the distance to get closer to the Earth. So
that's hilarious.
It's funny to me because everything you need to debunk the argument is right there in the argument itself.
I think
that's pretty great. That's flat Earth levels of dumb.
Mine is similar, and it was one that I actually just discovered only a few days ago. So flood geology has this huge issue of trying to transport vast quantities of sediment, and it requires large tidal forces to do that, something that they have now admitted that our own moon cannot provide, and to create the giant tsunamis they need. So John Whitmore, at the International Conference of Creationism back in 2013, he tried to be very tentative about it, because even he knows it's outlandish. They had to propose that during Noah's flood, Earth had 6 independent flybys with a moon-sized object in order to provide the extra tidal force to create the tidal waves and tsunamis needed to transport sediment in the middle of a flood.
That's awesome.
Obviously, he got in contact with Dr. Claudia Albers for the Planet X.
That is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's Nibiru.
But I
I'm
thought,
talking Nibiru.
A planet that we just can't find anywhere. I'm assuming they have to say that it wasn't even in orbit around the sun, but instead just God shot six moons towards Earth and had them swing around and then get ejected from the solar system to where we can't find them now.
but Colton, didn't all the happen when all the plates were moving at one time and
Yes.
1 year, all the Pangea were being moved all in 1 year.
Argue that the force of the tectonics moving would be enough to do what they need, but I guess not.
Well, while it was melting the crust of the Earth because they were going so fast. All right, TD, what's your favorite?
It's like trying to pick from my favorite type of cancer. They're all bad. What Colton said, yeah, that was pretty awful. Lunar Bukake is pretty bad too.
Oh, yeah, that one too.
Oh, the logmats the size of
Nephews,
Texas that are getting
Lunar
struck by lightning, and they also somehow have insects living on them. That's one of my favorite bad ones.
That is actually another one I've encountered. I was having a discussion with a creationist on Reddit. This was like 3 years ago, and I was asking him to explain the presence of large wildfire deposits, because we're talking about wildfire deposits that indicate fires that covered at one time an area larger than all of Ireland. Like literally entire nations and states on fire at once. How does that
Like Australia?
Yeah, exactly.
There you
So
go.
what he proposed was that in the middle of Noah's flood, like the floating forests would get washed up onto these briefly exposed sediments, and then lightning from moving storms would somehow target these mats and just slam them like an artillery barrage to dry them out and ignite nation-sized wildfires.
Gravy.
That somehow the rain from these storms and the sea mist and everything else didn't counteract it.
Well, because they were sinners, Colton. They were all sinning.
The trees were sinning.
I guess I can only expect that just like how they've admitted now that God had to deliberately tune radioactive decay rates because there is no way to naturally change that, and that was supposed to be a reflecting his judgment on the world. I guess God just was really pissed at those plants too.
You know, pine trees are the worst sinners of all. I mean, they watch everything and they do nothing.
Hey, that tree let itself get eaten. Let this fruit get eaten. So it's responsible too.
Exactly. Oh, he's got a point here. He's got a point. The tree was just as responsible as Adam was.
I mean, trees fornicate everywhere.
They do all the time. They're constantly fornicating.
Yeah, that's a sin.
That is a sin.
Such a sin.
They don't ever marry. Not one tree ever got married.
Nope.
I think we've just solved natural theology right there.
Oh
Exactly.
We did it, folks. We can
By
go
the way,
home now.
Jackson, I looked up the horsehair worm, and I've seen these things before, and they're horrifying.
I know they force their victim to drown themselves so that they can get out.
You see, that seems like something that the old young earther in me would immediately think, oh, that's too complex to evolve. But at the same time, you're thinking, wait, no, God can't design something that evil. So how does that come about afterwards?
Yeah, I with questions like that, I tend to prefer questions which can't be answered either by the fall or the flood. Something like, why did God put an ERV in us, which is necessary for placental development? It's not evil. It doesn't hurt us. But why? Why an ERV?
Any other sequence. If he's an omnipotent creator, it doesn't have to look like a virus.
Yeah. Why, when it works, does it print out little versions of the virus that don't do anything?
That was a thing I didn't know until you informed me about it.
And it makes little pieces of the virus.
Oh, Jackson.
Common design out the window because it's still making a virus.
But Jackson, the real question is, Jackson, is how did God let that virus invade the same spot in all the different animals.
Well, I could just say he put that in there in all of them. That's
Jackson,
the common design, but
in Standing for Truth's debate the other day, he oddly enough didn't mention that that ARV produces the tiny little useless viruses when he brought it up, saying
because he doesn't read the literature.
Fine.
He doesn't read the literature. Well, I mean, we all know this. He doesn't read.
Can you send me a paper on that? Because I want to read it.
That's what's always plagued
same.
me about him.
That's
what's always plagued me about him is he'll mention a paper and then mention apparently something maybe from the abstract, but he never mentions anything from the paper. And a perfect example, and this is even a bigger sin. There's a paper that was written by something Karnov. Right now, it's escaping me. A Russian guy about genetic entropy, and it was about why have we not died 100 times over? And he'll repeat it as why have we not gone extinct 100 times over, which tells me that he didn't even read the title, but he's never actually cited anything from the paper.
Isn't that the paper where the dude is explicitly saying it's because we've completely gotten rid of natural selection in our society?
Yes,
that's exactly right.
It's like he's authored or co-authored a couple papers with James Crow from the 90s. It's like Kraczynski or something like that.
Kondrashov.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that paper before. Yeah, and you're right. The reason is he's not referring to humans generally. He's not even referring to all humans. He's only referring to like post-industrial humans because we have no natural selective pressures. We just like retain all these mutations. Yeah.
So is that what anti-vectors are all about then?
Yeah.
That's way beyond me, man. Anti-vaxxers.
Be like, see, if we were still vaccines prevent natural selection now, they want us like.
Eric just posted something in the live chat, or it's like Standing for Truth brought up to me once in a live stream that there's a peer-reviewed paper proving a literal 6,000-year-old young Earth creationist interpretation of Adam and Eve. I asked him for the paper and he never gave me the link. That is a common thing I'm seeing, and what bothers me more is that he only posts screenshots of the paper's title on the video as if that's a reference.
Yeah, let me see. You asked for the paper about making the little bits of virus. Let me see if I can. I think.
Well, it works for Hovind. Why wouldn't it work for him?
You put it in private chat, and I'll put it in live chat.
I think it's this one actually.
They were literally on Hovind's channel the other day to talk about ERVs.
Good one, Dapper Dino.
Isn't Hovind an anti-vaxxer?
Or at least his wife was.
He pushes a complete scam that like vitamin B12 will cure you of cancer or something to that effect.
Well, his wife or one of his wives was an anti-vaxxer.
Doesn't surprise me.
Was it Joe? I think she was the anti-vaxxer.
Yeah. But
it's one of these paper. It's one of these papers that I have in my
So where do you guys think Hovind goes to meet girls?
His compound.
Compound, yeah. Do it.
Oh, I remember actually. During said debate, Standing basically made the assertion that recently dated rocks with radiometric dating they are discoordinate. They don't give proper dates, despite the fact that we know they're when they were deposited. And what? There's Mount St. Helens and New Zealand, basically,
which was done by Snelling. By Steve Austin. I think there was another one they did. It was very similar on a New Zealand volcano, and then there's the Hawaiian ones that they that were like from the 1950s that are constantly cited. They were cited by Morris. What they'll never talk about is that argon dating of Pompeii The first time around got within a few decades on either side of the calendar date, and a more strict analysis got literally the calendar year.
Nice.
So
A lot of Steve Austin's work is about xenoliths, though, and he doesn't even mention that it's xenoliths, which for those people in the audience who don't know, go ahead.
He literally ignored Bowen's reactions, and he admitted that his own samples could not be completely separated, meaning, yes, he was dating a mixture of old and new material, and it wasn't individual pieces, it was mixtures that he could not completely separate, and the lab couldn't either, and so it was a meaningless date to begin with.
Oh, it gets better, though, because I made a specific point of asking Standing for Truth, hey, you're aware that you can't date very recent igneous rock with radiometric dating because there's been no time for the decay to take place? He completely avoided that question.
Yeah, no, the
He
issue
gave a
is,
non-answer.
another issue with Austin's work is that he completely ignored the possibility that that lab may have had excess argon left in its machines, which on an old rock is such a minimal amount that it really doesn't affect the date at all. But when you've got a young rock, even if it has no argon in it, it will still contaminate it and pick up a noticeable date, which would explain why only one of his dates even crossed their 2 million year threshold for what was datable. So he just assumed that it was excess argon without investigating the other hypotheses.
Let me see.
Yeah, but those are just evolutionary excuses.
Yes,
I guess
they're what does he call them? Rescuing devices. Yeah. Good lord. Okay, wait. I think I found which. Yes. Okay, it's this paper. It is this paper. I had to figure out which one because I had to go back to my coronavirus script to figure out which one it was because I had.
Deadly Dakota Raptor puts it rather well. It's like measuring a 100-meter sprint with a calendar.
Quite literally, yes. Actually, reading from Henke's complete rebuttal of Austin's paper here and the defense that somebody else tried to make of Austin, because Austin almost never actually responds to his critics directly. He said, Figure 4 in Austin's report by itself indicates that ancient zoned crystals were common in Austin's dactyte from Mount St. Helens. It is also obvious from Austin's text that he was unsuccessful in adequately separating volcanic glass from much older materials. He should know that if he wanted to date 1986 AD eruption, the phenocryst needed to be entirely removed from his fractions, which they weren't, and that another method besides potassium-argon should have been required, such as argon-argon dating. Furthermore, when Austin submitted his samples to Geocon laboratories, he failed to heed warnings from the laboratory about the limitations of their equipment. Both Austin and Swenson, who was the guy who tried to defend Austin, ignored the implications of zoned minerals and Bowen's reaction series from the age of the dacite. Obviously, Austin's improper use of potassium-argon and not the method itself is flawed. Rather than recognizing the flaws in Austin's essay, Swenson simply parrots Austin's erroneous claims without really understanding the chemistry and mineralogy of the dacites.
Yeah, Austin's not particularly good at being a geologist, I feel.
He's actually pretty decent in his real papers.
Yeah.
It's why it's just like,
Austin was a much better wrestler than he was a geologist.
Yeah. He also has claimed that he wasn't he didn't believe in catastrophism until St. Helens erupted, and yet we've got papers from him writing for Answers in Genesis under a pen name going back from before the eruption even occurred. So that's just an outright lie.
Yeah, he's dishonest in my opinion.
That's not even an opinion, dude. You're just stating straight facts.
Yeah, it's just how do you do all this bad stuff when you have the proper training? Go figure.
Prove isochrons with something in the Grand Canyon, and that was a complete mess.
Oh dear.
I believe this is the paper. I'm gonna put it here on the side. I believe this is it.
You couldn't pull it up immediately. That means you were lying.
I was trying to read through it to find the exact sentence, but I'm like, I'm not the fastest reader in the world, and so I'm like,
Does a captive retroviral envelope produce protein involved in human placental orphagen? analysis.
Yeah. This was one of the papers that I looked at for my video on the coronavirus, because I did in the video, I talked about retro elements and how our genome is 42% retro elements. That's a little weird. That's a lot of stuff we don't really need. But yeah, I believe it was from this paper.
So it's talking about the gene.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been co-opted for something. I'm just looking to read it, which says that the little capsids are made.
We did not detect. Was it this? I think it was this paper, but I'm not positive.
You're talking about the right one. I could just start looking for. You're talking about like the right protein. I could just start looking for it.
At any rate, yeah. But there's a lot of really interesting stuff on this protein, because it was co-opted from a retrovirus for a new function.
Oh, found it. Repeated observations of retroviral-like particles in placenta and the existence of fused placental cell morphology reminiscent of virally induced syncytia led to the proposal that an ancient viral infection may have been a pivotal event in mammal evolution. So yes, it has been directly observed to see literal viral particles being made by these things.
Yeah, there you go. So
and also the cells don't just. It's not just useful for something. They have to go through a stage where they look infected.
yes, so
Very common design there. That's not misleading.
And so, speaking of our ERVs, what is the earliest ERV that we know of that were related to the same animal or plant?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh.
The earliest known, and the first thing I get is case of COVID-19. I love this. I love 2020.
I have no idea what the earliest like projected phylogenetic event in which a retrovirus
identification of ancient endogenous retrovirus predating the divergence of placental mammals. It's the same thing. This study describes for the first time a retroviral ortholog predating the divergence of placental mammals, giving it a minimum age of 104 to 110 million years. Okay, so we've got one going back at least that far.
Yeah, I would imagine there are others, but yeah, I don't know what the oldest one is.
I was wondering if there's any ERVs that we have with like daisies or other plant species.
That's an interesting thing.
There are. What is interesting is we do have protein families where it looks like where in plants the proteins are two separate families, but in us they're conjoined and they're the same family. There are examples of that. PC Byers would be a good person to have on to talk about that.
Oh yeah, God knows I can't comment on any of this.
Sure, just have him contact me.
None of this is limestone, man. I can't do this.
Hey, limestone was made by a giant whirlpool.
No, that was chalk, you idiot.
Yeah.
It's
all the same. It's all the same.
Colton. It was the inverse whirlpool that created the limestone.
Wait,
went counterclockwise instead of clockwise.
Tony, did you see that discussion I had where a creationist claimed the chalk in the White Cliffs of Dover was caused by a giant whirlpool?
It is
what's the citation for that?
Tour guide.
I totally missed that. I wish I had seen it because
that was
would
on.
have been interesting to see you dismantle it.
It was on Steve McRae's channel. This guy said his citation was a Kent Hovind tour guide.
Oh, yes, I do remember that. Oh, that was funny. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
I think we must have different definitions of hilarious, but yeah.
For Jackson, torturing. For Colton,
I read him the paper.
Monstrously awful.
I read him like the
hilarious.
sedimentology from the site, like literally strata by strata, and he was like, "I don't hear anything about a whirlpool." No kidding.
Yeah,
man, I would really enjoy having a conversation with an idea about the about the Cambrian explosion. I think that'd be fun. I cannot find. It gives you an idea of like how few ideas are out there. I can't find like any.
So
I can't find any
so-
of them.
they're
who have a
relevant.
conversation.
They were a little before like the 1990s. It was all young Earth creationists and some old Earthers, and then it peaked, and then it fell, and now we're back to the way things used to be for the most part.
okay, Jackson, I have a question for you. What in the Cambrian exploded, and who exploded it?
Why did the Cambrian decide to explode?
If you think about it, there, like you have the giant shrimp, and they exploded on the grill, and you have the little fishies, and they also exploded on the grill.
Hey, there were no fish in the Cambrian.
Well,
and then you have
early
those weird
vertebrates.
fucking trilobites that we steamed. It's pretty great.
Yeah,
They exploded pretty hard.
Did you know, fun fact, there is a trilobite named Geragnostus Waldorf Statleri, which is named because part of it looks like Waldorf and Statler.
That's awesome.
That's actually one of the species that was at the place I dug at here in California in November.
I think that was the same paper where they named a trilobite Han Solo, but not named after the rebellion general. It was named after the Han dynasty because it was found in China, and Solo because it was the last member of its family.
Hey guys, good news! Good news.
What? You can see some tours of Hovens now on YouTube. Wow.
That with bed material.
I thought you said good news.
Oh, Dapper is going. Bye, Dapper.
Bye, Dapper.
Oh man, I was just gonna say, unless this was a joke, all I know is that no flood leaves graded bedding. Oh yeah, because that's not what the flood did. I don't.
Do we
I
have a
can't.
creationist out there?
No. This was a Dapper comment.
Oh, okay,
I just-
gotcha.
Oh no, floods leave graded bedding, but I think he's just saying that. Oh well, obviously Noah's flood didn't do it, so why should we think any graded bed is a flood deposit?
Well, the great thing about the global flood was that it caused all geologic structures simultaneously because water does that, apparently.
Yeah. Fuck structural geology
And
for that window.
Yeah, but we know what floods do. We know what because I watched a video about how I think it was from one of the PBS videos. You know, they're talking about the floods in North America and how they accidentally leave
Oh, the
behind.
Missoula flood, yeah, the Lake Missoula flood. That was actually that's where RJ lives. He's up there by that, and there we actually discussed that in the Rockford. There, go buy the book. And it does leave. There is very specific evidence for a flood, not just one, lots of floods. There is evidence of the water coming in and going back and forth. There's evidence of what's the drop stones. There's mega ripples. There's all this evidence of a flood. Only there.
But you're saying that all that evidence is in the same place all around the Earth?
That is in fact what I'm saying. It's almost like there's evidence of local floods, but not of global floods.
Jackson, don't you understand? It's all about worldview. They start out with assuming a global flood created most of the Phanerozoic record. Even though it's not about worldview, because when you ask, well, am I using worldview to decide between hydroplate or catastrophic plate tectonics? They'll say, well, no, then it's evidence. Okay, am I deciding with worldview between meteor impact or Deacon traps or the Siberian traps for killing the Permian? Well, no, then it's evidence. Oh, so it's only when you're crossing the line that it's all worldview and not evidence.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
But Colton, you have all this evidence, but my book says 6,000 years ago. So and flood. So
I'm sorry, but when you start out saying any evidence you provide has to be wrong in some way, even if I can't tell you how, I'm not having a conversation with you. It's done.
Colton, is it in the Bible? It's not in the Bible, Colton. It's wrong.
In my debates, I've been trying to concentrate on practical application and predictive power. And basically every time I hear, well, this would be predicted by creationism. Yeah, well, it would be, except it wasn't predicted by creationism until after it was discovered. I point that out.
The only one that I can think of that differs from that was Humphreys trying to say that there was a bunch of magnetic reversals during the flood, and he predicted that if that occurred, then a key trace of that would be very thin lava flows that clearly cooled within weeks at most, would record a rapid magnetic reversal. And he claimed it was indeed found somewhere, but when you checked the paper, they found that it like rocked back and forth. It wasn't a reversal. And then later the actual authors came around and said, oh, actually, we really fucked up our analysis. This was not, we don't even actually have a signature of a rocking anymore. And he got pissed on creation.com and started accusing them of backing down because they're afraid to question the validity of slow reversals. It was just sad.
Ooh.
Dang.
That sounds like some serious. Oh no, my prediction is wrong.
Russell Humphreys was the
dumb
same
model.
guy that when they were doing the whole helium and zircons thing, and they presented it at a conference, and a bunch of geology students were there with their teacher, said, "Hey, wait a minute! You said you found your sample in igneous rock, and you didn't. It was a metamorphic rock." He was like, "Oh, you're gonna go tell Baumgartner that to his face?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, I'll tell him. Point me to him."
Ooh.
Yeah, and the lady had to grab Humphreys and be like, "You can't do that. We're supposed to be nice Christians. Please go."
I would love to have one of my dreams, if I can't do it, to get someone else to coach someone or to do it myself, to have a debate with Steve Meyer on the Cambrian.
I would love to see that debate.
His views on the Cambrian are hilarious. They are he quite literally makes the argument, why are there still monkeys with regard to the Cambrian? And what's his name? Long story short, was parroting that argument with his or a version of that argument with his recent whale video.
Is it long?
Oh God! Right? Yeah, the whales.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. If these are the ancestors, why are they found alongside the descendants?
We need to watch that video.
Do you want to make me? I love whales. Are you going to torture me again? I already had to sit through damn taxonomy.
Here's an interesting postscript to that argument of if monkeys and apes, or if we came from monkeys and apes, why are there still monkeys and apes? Mm-hmm. The earliest record I can find of that particular argument is actually in a George Carlin routine.
What? That's gravy.
It's brilliant to me.
Oh man, I would love for that to be the origin of that. That would be so meta. That would be so meta for that to be the origin. Oh my god!
Some creationists watching that going like,
he's got a point.
so pretty good. Speaking of that,
I hate everything else he says, but I love that argument.
That's why I want to have Erica here. Like, is there like a monkey kind and the ape kind and the human kind from in Baraminology and primate kind?
They tend to say, I don't think gibbons are part of it, but orangs, gorillas, and chimps are all the ape kind. I think hylobatids, the gibbons, are their own group. I don't really know what they do with the rest of the monkeys. They don't have any. Well, because all of creationism is like 30 people, all the top. There's only like top 30 people. The upper echelon. They don't have any primatologists. They don't have like any systematists. They don't have botanists. Well, they got close with Sanford. They're pretty close with him, but they don't have all these really specialized people. They just have kind of broad people, and so
they have dentists.
They have dentists. That's true.
I actually got a very similar vibe to the whole dentist thing when I found out that Purdom was an oncologist.
Yeah, again, she's a geneticist, which is fine. That's great, but in oncology, and so her expertise on how these particular mutations are causing proto-oncogenes to become oncogenes and all that. Okay, that's great. That's not really helping you do phylogenetic systematics or anything like that. So
yeah,
and so they don't really have people who are in these who have a foot in these other areas. Even the guy, RJ knows the name, the guy who's a paleontologist, he's like an arthropod paleontologist, but none of the articles he writes on for creationism are about arthropod paleontology. They're all about hominin paleontology. Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
You don't think it would be cool to try to make a Baramins of the trilobites or something? I mean,
I think it'd be really cool to see them try to slice up all the different arthropod stem groups.
Yeah, good
Like-
luck when they all look fucking same.
Yeah, exactly. You know, how are the different Lobopods? How are they all different from each other? What about the anomalocarids and Opabinia? What about the Fuchsianheids and the Megachirons and the bivalved arthropods? How are these guys all different, from each other exactly? I would love to see that. I think that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Tony, did you see the video I did on the adenine octar tactic?
Oh, I'm gonna go
if
play the
you're
Wildcat.
asking if I've seen your videos, I've watched every single one of your videos, and oftentimes I've had to pause it and go, "Really? Is that true?" And looked it up, and God damn it, you're right. Yeah, I did watch it. I don't remember it right now, but I've watched every one of your videos.
Well,
more than I would care to admit to.
Well, then here I'll refresh your memory. I did it recently. It's the one where Raw Matt says Psittacosaurus was a parrot.
It's clearly it. I mean, just
Yes.
But what
I remember that.
I was reminded because he also says an isopod, a crustacean. It's a trilobite.
ignoring that Trilobite's exoskeleton was calcified.
Yeah, exactly. You have different like tagmosis in the trilobites. You have different mouth parts in the trilobites as opposed to crustaceans. All these morphological differences, and since trilobites are considered more closely related to the chelicerates, the spiders in that group, you would also presumably have genetic differences. Nope, screw that. They look kind of outwardly similar, so they're the same.
Speaking of watching videos, I tried to marathon all Tony's videos once.
Ooh,
No, you can't do that. No, you don't. Yeah, don't try it.
I only ever watched them in 5 minutes for like five video groups.
I like your intro. I like your intros, Tony.
The most I've done is
enjoy
like
doing
20 at
intros.
once. And that was just because I had nothing better to do.
Okay,
Every
I'll
Great.
tell you
Keep up the
something.
good work.
Thank you, but I'll tell you something that, and this is not an egotistical thing. I do watch my videos, but it's when I need to go to sleep because my own voice puts me right to sleep, like that.
Tony, you're one of the people who, when like Aaron Raw and Paula G, when your video comes out, that's like I'm like click,
Yep, same here, man. I enjoy the hell out of your videos.
I like that. I like the stuff. I don't. I feel the other thing is I feel kind of bad because I'm subscribed to so many channels, and I don't have time to watch all of their videos, and that makes me sad.
I know, me too. It's like you get behind somebody's video, like, damn it, I gotta catch up now.
Yeah, because some of the people I follow post like 3 videos a week, and they'll each be like 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, come on,
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
unfortunately, between the two of us, we probably have a lot of friends on YouTube that probably all of us actually that tend to post hour-long videos. And if they're always posting hour-long videos, you're just not going to get to all of them.
Sure, that's fair.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy the interviews. I like I'll play video games while listening to interviews that Lamont does, that Aaron Raw does. What was it with the non sequitur show? I like listening to listening to these while playing video games or
Jackson,
whatever.
that's what I did with today's Leaping Gunner of Creationism that Dapper did. I was listening to that while playing Terraria.
Oh, I listened to Dapper stuff while playing Kerbal Space Program.
So
Yeah.
So speaking of videos, Colton, how come you quit YouTube after you started?
I didn't enjoy doing the videos.
Okay.
It's not for everyone. Even I get kind of tired of doing videos sometimes. It happens.
Yeah, I want to get to my second video. I just need to I need to get started in research. I'm a bit lazy.
To be fair, between my first and second video I posted on YouTube was a 2-year gap.
Dang.
Hey, it's been like a year since I've posted a video, and it's just I don't have the mental capacity to do it right now. I just don't have the ability to do
You said you only
research.
had like another season left in you or something like that for your videos, didn't you?
And I may have been a little ambitious.
You gotta get on it.
I'm going to finish it. I promise I will finish it at 100, and then after that it'll be a one-off thing. Every once in a while I'll do a video, but yeah, I do need to finish the season
Because you have 5 episodes to go, right? Only 5 to go.
6 episodes. Well, 5 episodes, and then one where I'm going to make fun of myself for all the mistakes that I made, which I like doing. I enjoy it. That's my favorite, making fun of myself for the errors I made.
I think
those are some of the best in the series, honestly.
Tony, the fact that you do that, you did that. R and Raw did an errata video like years ago. But the fact that people on our side will do that,
Admit they're wrong.
Yes, they'll post videos where they go, "Yeah, I screwed up. I made a mistake. My bad. Here's where you can read more about this subject. Don't take my word." RJ constantly saying, "Don't take my word for it. Don't take Jackson's word for it." People on our side say that kind of stuff. And I think that's awesome. You listen to creationism, it's believe me. I'm so-and-so. I know everything that I'm talking about. I'm never wrong. I destroy everyone who comes up against me.
You see, I taught 15 years of high school science.
Yeah, which was neither 15 years nor high school science.
Jackson.
Homeschooling your kids does not count.
Jackson. It's not that Ken's not wrong. It's the Bible's never wrong.
Oh, of course.
Right. Now, to be very fair, and I haven't investigated this, but I've heard tell that Ian Juby has produced a few errata videos. I haven't seen one. But
I have not seen one either. That's great.
I watched
I've had a few creationists explain that to me.
That's so funny. I would love to hear him go, "Yeah, the chicken's laying eggs while running from the flood." I would love for him to have been like, "Yeah, okay, maybe not my best moment, but you get the picture, right?" I would love that. Oh my god.
What I want to know is how the elephants got higher up on the hill of flood than the Jurassic birds did.
Well, or the magnolias. You think like the idea of a magnolia ripping its like roots out of the ground and running up the hill to die alongside the early birds? Yeah.
I'm particularly curious when they do this ecological zonation thing. I keep looking in their literature, and I don't really see them address it anywhere. Is they claim that it's either like the flood grabs an ecosystem from higher up and then brings it back down into a basin. So that's how you get ecosystems that were originally like laterally separated, stacked on top of each other. But that ignores the fact that you can also trace the migration of ecological zones laterally.
No.
Oh dear.
Pulled in from different areas and then stacked in a consistent order going laterally and vertically.
Colton, more land is made by the water, and then that land
Did you know? You know the whole argument that a lot of them like of, the continent should have eroded in, and who you talk to, it varies. I've heard some say 20,000 years. I've heard some say 100 million years, and anywhere in between. It's never consistent.
Okay.
But did you know
I've heard variants of that, yeah.
Do you know that it directly contradicts another one of their arguments, which is volcanoes add too much to the crust too fast?
Oh,
I hadn't heard that.
I haven't heard that argument.
It's on Creation Wiki and it's on Talk Origins, because Creation Wiki tried to debunk all Talk Origins. They actually concede, and they're the only ones I know that do this, that both the volcanic argument and the erosion argument are wrong because they contradict each other.
That's awesome. I love that. My favorite page on Creation Wiki still is the index fossil page, because now
it's in our flood geology end.
Now in our book, in print forever, we have them. They can never weasel out of that. We have them in print. I love that.
I'm gonna need to find that. Because I've been a bit slow because school.
I think it's in. Well, yeah, of course. It's in either 6 or 7. It's one of the last. I think it's in 7.
Yeah, here it is. It's literally real short. Wow.
They're a problem for the flood geology.
This sorting of fossils poses a particular challenge for creationists to explain through flood geology. And then it just goes on to explain that they're used for oil, gives you a picture, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the funny thing.
Yeah, those microfossils, man.
The only before the one that you mentioned, the only thing I could find, and I tried searching a whole bunch of places, the only thing I could find by creationists on index fossils was the one page on CMI where they try to debunk them, but whoever wrote it doesn't really know what they are, because he spends the whole article talking about stasis, talking about punctuated equilibrium. It's like that's not relevant to this discussion at all. We're not talking about we're not talking about either stasis or rapid.
Jackson, that's unsurprising, as creationists have a lot of trouble being relevant, period.
That's true.
And remember, for all the creationists who say the geologic column isn't a real thing, there was a pact of 9 trained creationist geologists who all signed a document saying, we all think it's real, please stop.
Kurt Wise says that.
Look bad. Yes.
Kurt Wise says that in his
it was Austin, Snelling, Whitmore, Kurt Wise, and there was like 5 others who don't write all that much.
Yeah.
Then you have people like Michael Ord, who I consider to be the new John Woodmarapp, because Woodmarapp's almost dead. And even he has admitted, he still says the geologic column is real, but he believes there's lots of exceptions to it. Whereas Woodmarapp was always saying, no, it's not a real thing at all, shut up.
Well, of course, Kent Hovind also says it's not a real thing. But
Hovind isn't a human being.
You get no argument from me there. But Wise also says it in his Floating Forest paper, because he rips to shreds a whole bunch of creationist art. He rips hydrologic sorting to shreds. He's like, okay, ecological zonation, behavioral differences, hydrologic sorting, these can all be used to explain literally anything. That's why they're not useful. So I suggest we get rid of all of them. Let's use my idea instead. So,
well, yeah, and that's good, because remember, we're dealing with people who say, well, these 2 animals share the same environment, but they're not found together. Let's just reconstruct the pre-flood world to have a mountain ocean where the marine reptiles are kept separate from the whales so they never mix.
Sounds legit.
And that's the thing. I'm glad Kurt Wise admitted that, because if you can just reconstruct the pre-flood world to give you any sequence whatsoever, then it's not a mechanism. It's an excuse.
Yeah, it's
sounds like a rescuing device.
It most assuredly is. Well, the funny thing is, I love that that Standing is always talking about the term rescuing device when the whole created heterozygosity was specifically made to be a rescuing device.
Oh, speaking of standing for truth, I think it was one of Erica's recent videos. They were once he was going over one of his videos. They're talking about the flood and genetics and stuff. Where I think it was either Standing or
thing.
Yeah, or maybe it was Nephilim that was talking about it. It says, well, we was like, well, they think that we think that the genetics came from animals from post-flood. They really come from before the flood, because of there's lots of species before the flood, but still, denying it back, I think. But still, you'll have 2 species after the flood, so that's still your genetics are cut off there.
I've never understood it either, because I don't really understand how an animal can have more than 4 alleles, right?
It can't. It literally can, or it can't pass on. It can have, if you have some omnipotent being decide, I'm going to give this elephant all of the alleles for all elephant species ever. Okay, well and good. He can only pass on 1 for each locus.
That was my thought.
What are you going to do? It's like that's. Have you
I mean,
ever heard of?
Brad had a good post where it was all just it was a study. It was just summarizing a study that showed that yes, mutations are what drive our diversity, not created
Actually, yes, yes, that was that paper was also used by Biologos because when you look at and this paper is cool. When you look at the distribution of mutations in humans, there's a pattern of like A to G and sorry, what did I say? C to G and A to T. There's a pattern of these sorts of mutations going on in humans. This pattern is almost identical when you compare that of chimps and humans, and it's almost identical when you compare that same pattern of humans, chimps, other apes, and monkeys. Meaning, if you're going to allow, I don't know what you said. Meaning, if you are going to allow for mutations to drive diversity in humans, you also have to be consistent and say it drove diversity in the whole group. It flattens creationism. Absolutely. You cannot argue against it. It's fantastic.
I'm sorry.
I used it. I actually brought it up. I brought that paper up to Standing for Truth during our debate. He said nothing about it. I don't think he still ever said anything about it.
Was he listening?
Like avoidance.
Well, yeah, because then all they're going to do is they're going to stick RAW-MAT on it. He's going to see N, assume that that's what the mutation count is, and reach when you tell him otherwise.
Oh my god.
Question. You know how bad the cheetahs are, right? 2,000 years ago, the bottleneck thing?
Yeah, they had a big...
they're so similar that I could literally just like slap the skin from one on the other.
How bad would that be if it was 4,000 years ago, the 4,000-year bottleneck for everything?
Oh, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't exist if there were only like 8 humans. We wouldn't look as different as we do. We would all look like the same.
Like the Habsburgs.
There would be no races. There would be no races.
There's an interesting paper too, which I don't know how this fits with the whole flood model. Because you know how people like Todd Wood say there's accelerated mutations after the flood or something?
Yeah.
And then there's like Andrew Snelling argues that there's post-flood accelerated decay that like weakens off or something like that, and then it stops. Well, there's a paper from like 2011 where they checked the genome of a Galapagos tortoise, and because they know there was a volcanic eruption on that island like 135,000 years ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they checked, and they did like the I don't know the methodology of it, but they basically calculated when did these guys have a bottleneck because
molecular clocks.
Yeah, molecular clocks. And it went back, and it coincided with the eruption to a T.
That's awesome. Okay, do you have that paper?
I have it somewhere. I'll drop it.
I want that paper because that's awesome.
I want that paper too.
Hang on, let me
that paper.
But yeah, that's because that's how that works. When you have a bottleneck, you can see it. It's in the genome. With the cheetahs, they had a bottleneck like 12,000 years ago, which reduced them to like, I think it was a few hundred individuals. Even with a few hundred, they're all basically clones of each other. They all have like genetic diseases, like they have poor sperm quality. They have these things called kinked tails, all sorts of stuff. And that was with a few hundred individuals. We're talking about 8 people.
Yeah, it reminds me of like that. You ever seen like with the European market, like the Habsburgs and stuff like that? They breed of each other.
Oh yeah.
Or like cats breed of each other eventually.
Yeah. It's the trees that fork just don't work. Or sorry, that converge just don't work. They curl back on themselves.
It's also like with the endangered species we have currently. Like
the Florida Panthers.
Rhinoceros. The species that are critically endangered to like practically only a few individuals. They possibly are just boned at this point.
Yeah, they're screwed. Yeah, there's nothing you can really do. Once you have like 3 females and a male, you're screwed. Sorry, there's really nothing you can do at that point, except have a good time, I guess. But
sure,
trade while you can. But hey, when was our bottleneck? Was it 70,000 years ago or 80,000 years ago?
Yeah, there's one that
Toba eruption.
There's 2. There's one. I think there's like one, that correlates with the out of Africa event, so like 70,000 years ago, whatever. Then there's another way back further, which was, I think, was in Homo erectus, and that was another bottleneck.
So here's what this paper did. I dropped the full thing in the side chat.
Ooh.
So they noted that on this island, 2 potassium argon dates for this rhyolitic lavas said that the eruption took place roughly between 74,000 and 120,000 years ago. Using stratigraphic constraints to narrow down those error bars, you get about 100,000 years for the eruption. Now, what they did was they noted that one haplotype does not show the reduced diversity, so it looks like that the eruption should somewhat predate the existence of the bottleneck between the other 2. So they made a testable prediction using their molecular clocks, and their prediction was that it should be about 88,000 years ago was when the bottleneck should have taken place if it was caused by this eruption. And guess what they got?
What they got?
88,000. And that was their coalescence. Their range is more telling, because their range of dates for when this bottleneck must have happened was between 72,400 years ago and 118,700. The range for the volcano was 74,000, 120,000. 74,000, 120,000. So it was literally right on the dot with the range for it took place within the same time frame. I don't know how you get these things lining up if one Jensen's molecular clock thing is true.
Oh, you
and
don't.
they're much faster. And 2,
Magic.
why did the faster mutations and the accelerated nuclear decay both slow down in such a way to make it look like there was no change?
Well, that's just an exception.
Magic.
I
Stop asking questions.
I just got a subscriber. I wonder who that was.
Yay! Good job.
Wasn't me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ouch,
Tony, going for the jugular right there.
It actually was me.
It was him.
Oh, well, we have conflicting stories. Who are you going to believe? It's all based on interpretation.
It was me.
Obviously, from the same interpretation of Tony Reed.
That's like the Andrew Snelling paper. Do you guys remember the Andrew Snelling piece where he says oil can form quickly, but cites 2 studies formed by like non-natural oil, or where non-natural oil was formed in the lab, and the researchers even said it's not like oil at all?
Yeah.
No, it's just hydrocarbons.
I
did an episode on that, actually.
That's right, you did. Yeah.
Creationists argue that abiotic oil should be the viable creationist alternative.
Well,
if you boys are going to deny the oil industry that hard, boy, you better capitalize on that, because nobody else has taken that route.
That's
Find
actually
that
something
oil, dude.
That's actually an argument I made to one of my my commenters, who was saying that they're suppressing this idea of abiotic oil. I'm like, if they could make abiotic oil, they would be making abiotic oil because it would be cheaper than natural oil, and so it would be more profitable. So then, and in their argument, they said follow the money. I'm like, I am following the money. There is no money in abiotic oil. That's why there is no abiotic oil. That's
well, that also reminds me of the Zion Oil Company, how they tried to use the biblical model to find oil, and they almost went under, but they like got help. So good times, because creationism doesn't work and all that, but whatever.
Yeah, the funny thing is, if these people think, oh, these corporations are on the side of the evil scientists and are willing to suppress the truth.
There is not a young Earth creationist oil tycoon somewhere who will happily force his dogmatic old Earth geologists who work for him to work with the young Earth creationists that will make him earn a quick buck. You do not tell me that CEOs care more about old Earth dogma than they do about making a profit.
Yeah.
Do not come at me with that.
Corporations will happily throw science into the bus for money.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. So there you go.
Oh, they're going to fight big... Okay, so let me get this straight. Big oil fights big climate change, but big climate change is part of big leftism, which is also where big evolution comes from. But big oil isn't fighting big evolution.
Well, it's funny because even
Yeah.
Pat Robertson was said it's like because even though he had Ray Comfort on and was like nodding happily along with everything Ray was saying, he was like, guys, this young Earth creationism stuff is just crazy. There are Tyrannosaurus fossils, which are 70 million years old. I have friends in the geology world which know the Earth is old. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, almost like he's got something there.
Did I do a good impression?
I'd say so. I haven't heard Pat Robinson before.
You gotta
Oh,
have
I
a really
thought so. I
turkey
thought it
suit.
was pretty accurate.
Oh, thank you. But I think it's funny. Even Pat Robertson's like, "Come on, guys."
You obviously don't sound like him, but you got his cadence down. You got it.
Sorry. I'll try harder next time.
Oh, just keep it up.
And I'll try harder to get my taxonomy right.
Yes, taxonomy is the most important, obviously.
Taxonomy the most important.
Don't worry, Colton. It was only a pop quiz. Once we go to the finals,
Yeah, when there's the final, I'm actually just gonna pull the fire alarm.
Actually, you know what? No, I can't talk about this.
When the final comes, you just
I
got
had,
a meteor.
I had a hard time with finals recently. They sucked, and now they're done. Thank God. And I have one class I'm going to take this summer, and then one more semester, and then I'll have my bachelor's degree in field and organismal biology. And I'm excited. What I've been saying. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say?
I just got my AA the other day because I needed one to do a transfer to another university. So I technically have a degree now, even though it's just an associate.
You know, I know. I think I've told you, Colton. I don't think I've told Tony. But when I get my degree, I'm going to post a tweet with me holding it. And in that tweet, I'm going to say, now with my first degree, I have one more degree than Dr. Kent Hovind.
So are you going of Dr. Hovind? Are you going for your real doctorate to be, so you can say it's Dr. Wheat versus
You know what the funny thing about that? Actually, well, yeah, eventually I'm going to be going for a doctorate in evolutionary biology or zoology, systematics. I don't know quite yet, but they're all relatively related fields. But what's funny is he is during his whole back and forth with R and Raw, he claimed, I don't put doctor on things. That's my staff who puts doctor on things. So he did a debate years ago. I think it was with Massimo Pigliucci, where the moderator referred to Dr. Pigliucci, but referred to Kent Hovind as Mr. Hovind. And Hovind specifically said, if you're going to refer to him as doctor, I am also a doctor. Kent Hovind lies about things. Who would have guessed?
We know.
Who could have possibly guessed?
You mean his staff does things without his approval and stuff and permission?
Yeah, it's almost like he's been calling himself Dr. Dino for the past 30 years, and now he's going to say, it wasn't me, it was my staff. I'm sure they also did this.
I guess his staff also doesn't know what a dinosaur is.
In my debate with him, he went out of his way to point out that he has actually 3 degrees. One of them is honorary. So I really want to know who the honorary one is from.
Oh, probably like Prager University or something like that.
Trump University.
Trump University, yeah, something like that. Good Lord. All right, I think we're being a little mean to PragerU. But
you can be mean to PragerU.
Okay, in 2013, I'm reading from Rational Wiki. Hovind claimed to have 4 doctorates, one of which was in Christian education, theology, biblical ministry, and divinity, honorary. I don't know what his other 3 would be.
That's the. Well, none of those are paleontology.
I happen to have a doctorate in divinity, and it cost me $100. And I've never used it except for knowing what the arguments are. But I have a doctorate degree in divinity with an emphasis on apologetics. So you tell me what I can do with that.
Hey guys, I have a degree in truthology, and that's what really matters.
From Christian Tech.
Okay.
I have a degree in memology.
We just refer to them as lords. Lord, meme lord.
Hey, I watched some YouTube videos. I watched some videos on the thing, so I got a YouTube degree on making videos.
There are some social media platforms that like hand out degrees as part of like your way of using it. Like, oh, you've earned the first degree, that kind of stuff. So maybe that's what he's thinking. I don't know.
I've actually had when I've debated people about on my channel, I've asked for scientific resources, and the sources that they give are never scientific, and then they'll show me a YouTube video. I'm like, YouTube's not a scientific source. And then this is the argument that I love when they come back to me and they say, well, so by your definition, your show is not a scientific source. And my response is always, you're right. My show is not a scientific source. You want scientific sources? Look in the description where I post links to the actual papers chronicling the actual experiments that were actually done by actual scientists.
Wait, Tony, are you saying that your series isn't peer reviewed?
It's peer reviewed, but I mean by my peers, not Jackson's peers.
Oh, I don't know. I like your show, Tony. I think it's very, very informative and very nice. Yeah,
I agree.
What that made me think of the. I actually thought you were going to go with the whole conspiracy theory thing. Like, we do have resources. We're just being put down by the man. Like the flat earthers say that kind of stuff. Like, where are the geologist flat earthers? Where are the astronomer flat earthers?
Hey, you know what? My response to the flat earthers is, what can we use your theory for? I mean, what can we learn from it? What can we discover by assuming that the Earth is flat? Is there a way we can find oil? Is there a way we can find gold? Can we predict astrological events using flat Earth?
Right.
Theology. And of course, that's the thing that isn't really addressed by creationists, flat earthers, is what are the applications of your theory? And in my debates, I even grant my opponents that let's just go ahead and assume that evolution is wrong and your position is correct. Why don't we just go ahead and deal with what the actual applications of your theory are? Right. And I have never, I mean, Nephilim Free will tell you he showed me a whole bunch of things that he assumes were designed, that were used to design like the bird wing or something like that was used to design a plane wing. And I'm like, well, at what point in time was the assumption that it was designed used to predict that it should work, or that
birds should exist if creationism is true?
I could have sworn when people tried to use wings like that birds to fly, they plummeted to the depths.
I don't know. You think, or I think about, if there are flat Earth astronomers out there, I hope they can at least do trig, because then they'll know why the Earth isn't flat or can't be flat. There's a guy, Cool Hard Logic. Have you guys seen his videos?
I think
I've been subscribed to him, I think, for a decade. I maybe not, but yeah, he's I haven't seen a lot from him recently.
I haven't seen his stuff either, but he did a video, or he did like 3 videos called I think it was Testing Flatards or something like that, which I don't know about calling names, but the arguments he presents are stellar, because if you've taken high school math, you should know why the Earth isn't flat. Because when you try to map a 2D map, or if you try to map a 3D map onto a 2D surface, you've got problems. It won't go 1-to-1. And so when they assume, they automatically, or flat earthers will say things like, okay, well, the land, like the continents, aren't stretched. They're the same. They just assume the size of the continents. The problem is that stretches out the oceans. So the oceans have to be longer between these distances. So when you try to find the distance between 2 points in the same latitude, that's going to be a lot longer on a flat Earth than on a spherical Earth. And so if you work out like the arc distance, between them, versus the linear distance between them, you can prove the Earth is not flat. And
Are all flat earthers also geocentrists too?
I would think.
Basically,
Or can
I
you
think
be?
so.
I think that's just a basic assumption of
I
them.
don't know. Like, can you even be a flat earther and be a heliocentrist? Is that even a thing?
I don't think so, because the sun would have to be moving above us to cast the light, but of course it has the lampshade on it, so it's going to cast light in certain areas.
Yeah,
I'm not completely convinced that I'm getting close to be convinced, but I'm not completely convinced that flat earthers aren't just poeing everybody.
most
I
of them
think a lot of them are. I think a lot of them are doing it out of it's it's funny. Look, people are getting angry on the interwebs.
Schadenfreude.
So you think all creationists are doing the same thing? Maybe they're all evolutionists. And
No, way
that's
too
like-
invested.
like,
Well, I would say the same. I mean, there are like flat Earth societies and stuff. I think if it's one guy on the internet who's saying that that light doesn't exist, it's made from tears in the fabric of reality, fine. Maybe he doesn't actually believe that. If there's a society of like 1,000 people who are all saying this, okay, maybe they actually do believe this, and they're all just crazy.
maybe it's all a dream. Maybe there really isn't any creationists or flat earthers or anti-vaxxers. They're all pretending the whole time.
I think and anti-vaxxers, I think, are in a different category because they're actually putting people's lives in danger. If you're a flat earther or creationist, who cares? Anti-vaxxers are actually going and protesting and going near people. They are actually putting people's lives on the line. So I put them in a separate category.
They're in the dangerous pseudoscience category,
Yeah, they're like
along with climate change denial.
yeah, that and what's the other one where you dilute a substance?
Homeopathy.
Homeopathy. Yeah, I think they're another one.
Increases efficacy or something like that.
Is that the one where you take herbs and stuff instead of real medicine?
Yes, it's the one where it's the one where in order to get like a single gram of active ingredient, you'd need a ball of the medicine that is bigger than the entire observable universe.
Oh,
That's not even a joke. That is a legit calculation somebody did. They were trying.
let's have some oregano. They'll
They were
cure you.
trying to pass off like duck liver as like some kidney cleaning agent or something. And the dude did the calculation of just how little duck liver there was inside this pill. And he's like, yeah, so to get the equivalent active ingredient from a normal medication in this would have to be the size of the known universe.
Is that what Hovind does with his apricot seeds?
Probably.
Oh,
Actually, I think those are poisonous, aren't
yeah, they are.
Yeah, those you don't want to eat.
So is any of this in homeopathy, which, by the way, sounds like an impressive word. I mean, doesn't it sound like it should be like something that's healing people all around the world?
Well, astrology also sounds impressive.
Yeah, but yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I got to get out of here because it's like almost 9 o'clock and I'm starving.
I get that.
All right.
Yeah.
See you later, Colton.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for
I want to hear
destroying
your point, Tony, and then I think I'm going to do the same.
Yeah. So after this point, we all do our sign-offs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I actually forgot my point.
So you were saying
It's
it's
late
a
now.
very impressive word.
Yeah.
It's a very impressive word, but I actually forgot what my point was. Sorry. That's
it
the way it's
sounds
going
like
to end.
it should.
Yeah,
Like maybe
it might have
should.
been an amazing point, though. It might have been earth-shattering.
Dang it! Now, Tony, you could have like saved the entire industry of homeopathy with what you
I
were
totally could have.
I imagine it was something along the lines of like maybe it sounds like it should heal people, so maybe they think that because it sounds so sciencey that maybe it should work. No, none of that.
No, that wasn't it. Yeah.
All right. Well,
It was different. Yeah.
all right.
It's late at night for me too. I mean, it might be only 5:45, but I'm in my 40s. Come on.
Yeah, I know you got to get to bed in an hour, right?
Oh, you're the same time zone as me. It's 5:45 here.
Man, I can't believe that I can't believe I drove past you. We were like in the same city for like 2 hours, and I didn't even realize. we could have eaten at Panda Express and everything. I mean, oh my goodness.
Panda Express, huh? That's where you choose. Okay.
That's where we went. We went by the frickin' gold and silver pawn shop, and then we went to Panda Express.
You were in Vegas?
Yeah.
I'm disappointed. Very disappointed.
I know.
Because I would have
know.
actually gotten you real food. I mean, I live in a city that has some of the best chefs in the world, and yeah, may as well enjoy some good food while you're here.
Yeah, we were driving back from oh frick like we went snow skiing in California, and I am blanking on the name.
A lake?
It was a lake. It was like a very deep lake up in the mountains. Is what it's nearby.
Havasu?
It could have been Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that would have been nice. Hell, I would have if you'd said you were in Lake Tahoe. I would have driven out to Lake Tahoe to meet you.
And we were there for a couple of days. We were driving all up. We went like Route 66. We went up, and then we went through Nevada, came down. So
Yeah, we
Well,
went right past Tahoe actually on our way back home after camping for the solar eclipse several years back, which was actually awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what. Once this apocalypse ends, I'm actually going to be taking a trip to Houston to see some old friends. So that's not too damn far from Baton Rouge.
I'm not in Baton Rouge anymore. I'm in Shreveport. I'm back in Shreveport.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Well, fortunately,
Excuse me, princess.
Louisiana is only like 4 hours across. So you know.
Well, if either of you, any of you guys want to. Guys are going to Big Fun the Crazy Museum. I live right an hour away from it, so
from
come
where?
visit me, the Crazy Museum.
Oh, you're up there. You're kind of far from all of us. We're all we're all kind of spaced out. Yeah.
I live in Southwest Ohio, so I'm like an hour away.
Wow.
Yeah, you're away from me. You're away from me.
I mean, if any of you are ever in the Riverside, kind of inland Southern California area. Congratulations, you're right by me and actually Steve McRae. There you go.
Wow. You know what's funny is RJ went to Alexandria, which is 2 hours short of me. The problem was it was the day before I came back from North Carolina. I missed him by a day. I was upset.
It sucks.
See,
He literally drove through Shreveport on his way down, and I was like,
you haven't met RJ in person yet, or have you?
nope, I haven't. No, he's like the opposite side of the country from me. So
Yeah, he's in Spokane.
yeah, he's way up there, way up there. The Great
Yeah,
Northern.
we lived.
Wouldn't that
me
be a
and
good guy
RJ
to
lived in
have
the
like
same
a
state
lunch
for a
with?
while.
Like, wouldn't that be a great guy to have lunch with? I mean, you could just sit there and just listen to him talk and just not say anything. Just listen.
Yeah, in the after show after his what was it, debate with Nephilim Free?
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
it just ended up going on film cameras, and it was great fun listening to him.
I didn't realize he debated Nephilim Free. That would be a fun one to watch.
He did. He was.
Fun.
It was. Oh my God. I can never.
It was
I will
painful.
never talk to that idiot again. He's not worth my time.
I'm not going to talk to that idiot plain outright.
So, anyways, well, thank you for having me on, Lamont. I appreciated having a space to mess with everybody.
Thank you. You have anything coming up on your channel? You wanna plug?
I promise to get back to making videos now that finals are over. And of course, you know, if you guys want to buy the book that RJ and I wrote, The Rocks Were There, feel free to buy that.
I already bought the Kindle version of it.
Awesome. There you go. You can buy the Kindle or the hardcover and, you know, read all about the failures of creationism and good stuff and lots of fun science.
Okay, TD Lane, but anything coming on your channel?
I'm gonna get started on research. I've already got a topic picked out, which is the American Mastodon.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice.
and my goal on that is to go into basically its lifestyle and what the ecosystem it lived in was like. And that's probably going to be either next week or the week after. Probably the week after, actually.
What about you, Tony? When we're going to see the final 5 episodes or 6
Does
episodes?
Tony even have a channel? I mean, who is this guy down here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I believe it or not, I'm actually taking a class to do my next episode. I'm taking classes from a university, UNLV, because I live in Las Vegas, And so I'm taking a class and I'm learning the science of my next subject. So it's
You're
going
not
to
going to
take a
tell us
little
what
while.
it is it? Are you?
Information theory.
That's awesome. I'm very excited for that.
That
So
is cool.
instead of just doing research, because that's way over my head, I decided I'd actually take classes on it. So there's
Nice.
nothing to predict right now. I will say, as far as mastodons, I had a girlfriend in college, and I have this habit of taking somebody's name and extending it. Like if somebody's name is, Sean, I'll call him Shawnathan just to be funny.
I do the same thing, Tony.
Okay.
I
I had a
guy-
girlfriend, and her name was Dawn. And what do I call her? Mastodon. Just did not work well. But
Oops.
I'm also very pissed off because Jackson just said his book is available in hardcover.
Or paperback, whatever. You can get
my copy's in paperback.
I'm sorry.
I want
I was
hardcover,
just
damn it.
thinking you can get you can
Hard
get in
copy of it.
hard copy. Yes, that's what I meant.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got a paperback version of it, and I freaking love it.
I do too. I need to.
It is actually
already.
the best part about it is, I mean, it's very hard to read as a single piece, but it is an excellent reference guide. When somebody says, "Well, what about?" and they bring up this argument, I mean, you've got it right there. And I've told you, and I've told RJ that when I read it, I hear your voice saying these things.
Yeah,
In the exact tone that you would say them. So it's really funny. If you watch your show, it's a much more fun read than if you haven't watched your show or your channel. So anybody who watches Jackson's channel, you're gonna love the book because you can hear him say, the Cambrian. It's so funny.
That's awesome. I love that.
Tony, before we go, you said information. Is that like crazy this form thing where they said lack of information? They lost information. Is that what you're talking about?
No, what's the origin of information? Basically people saying that one of the creationist arguments is that information can only come from an intelligence. Right. Now, I can already tell you I've learned enough now to say, then you've totally got a different definition of information than really exists. And when I've given examples in the past, like for example, I live close to a park called Red Rock Canyon. There's a redness to the rocks in that canyon, and that is definitely information. It didn't require an intelligence, but it tells you just by looking at it that there's a whole lot of iron in those rocks that has been oxidized.
That's Tony. That video will probably become a reference that I'm going to point people to in the future, and because we talked about information in the last book, dang it, that's going to be part of the update in chapter 1. So.
Cool.
I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
I'll finish it.
As for me, I don't even plan for next Saturday, but things change. Who knows? I might have a guest by next Saturday, but right now nothing's happening.
I hope so.
You have a very popular channel, so there you go.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, never stop learning and enjoy the randomness. We'll see you all next